Start the meeting. We'll start off with the flag salute, followed by prayer by Mr. Paul. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight once again. We just thank you for all that you are and all that you've accomplished for us. Lord, we thank you for the privilege of bringing others before you. Lord, we ask that you watch over the leaders of our city, Lord, that you would lead them and guide them as they make decisions. Lord, we just pray that you just continue to help us each and every day to learn more of you and live more for you. We ask all these things in Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, now we'll move to the consent agenda. Was there any questions?
Add Jody Hayner under appearances.
Yeah, I want to add two people. Jody Hayner under appearances for the HB something, CAT, HB cap. And I'd like to add Rob on to speak. Excuse me, Pete? You need something? I want to add Rob to speak on behalf of Bourbon County Ready. Okay, now is there anything on the consent agenda? Any questions?
Yeah, I'm again questioning the demolition of the structure on Hill Street. In the specs or instructions, it says all building materials are to be removed, including footing. That site is around behind. There's huge chunks of concrete that are back there that are left. The basement wall is still standing exposed. Footings are still in. I don't know whether we've, whether the agreement has been fulfilled or not. I don't know, but I do know that there's debris all over that place. There's burnt lumber. There's concrete blocks, huge chunks of concrete, and it doesn't look to me like all footings have been removed when you've got a wall standing.
Okay. Yeah, Pete, I went by and looked at that as well today. I agree that behind the structure there are some large pieces of concrete. Question I have though is I know it says all building materials are to be removed, including the footing, but then the next line on the contract says that any basements under structure or accessory structure must be filled with compacted soil.
Yeah.
That one wall on the north side, if that wall wasn't there, there's not that'd take a ton of dirt to try and fill that up to where it might be a buildable lot again. So on the one side, yeah, obviously the footings aren't done, but in this case here, where to keep a level lot, I don't know how you do it if you remove that wall on that side. Just my opinion.
Well, definitely all the footings have not been removed.
Yeah.
That's a requirement. That's what it says.
Yeah, the wall that you're referring to is a footing wall.
Yeah.
That whole, and I don't know anywhere in the wording where it says it has to be a level lot. That structure that was originally there was built on that hill with the concrete footings, and then the stem walls brought up off of it. So the stem walls should have been demoed. The concrete should have been demoed.
It says furnish acceptable fill material to leave lot in level and mowable condition. So it does say that it has to be a level lot.
So I went over there and took a look at it too, and I would have to agree with Pete that there's concrete all over the place, and that those walls, and I understand what you're saying, that the wall is being used as some sort of retaining wall, but unless we have express permission saying leave this wall as a retaining wall so that you have a place to pack your dirt again, everybody else who bid on that job bid quite a considerable amount more. And I think they took into consideration that they were going to have to demo out that concrete wall and then fill it back in with dirt. If you look at there are two bids that are close to each other, and then the next two bids are way higher, because I believe that they took that into consideration, that they were gonna have to do all that extra work.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think, bottom line, I think maybe through a work session or whatever, there's several things in here that we need to review
I would agree.
and clarify.
Yes.
And one of the items I had talked to Kelly about, not just on the demo of the houses, but on a lot of our city contracts, and I've mentioned it to Mr. Farmer as well. Yeah, to the letter of the law in the contract. In this case, it is a little confusing where it says fill in the basement, remove footings. But I'd also like to get some of the verbiage done to help expedite these things where we, in some of our contracts where we use the word should have a job done by a certain amount of time, change that to shall have a job done by a certain amount of time. And if, even put a verbiage in there that if you need a 10-day extension or whatever due to weather, work with the city manager to get that. But I mean, our money is just as good, just as important as anybody else, no matter who the contractor is or what job they're doing. And you'll find in contracts a lot of times, and Bob, you can probably say the word should is kind of subjective to actually getting stuff done. So I think we need to look at this whole thing and revise that. And then on the other end of it, let's look at trying to expedite it to the proper completion.
I would agree that there needs to be some clarity within those contracts so that these guys have a clear understanding for what needs to be done. I know that on several of the other projects that have had similar demos with concrete basements below them, the contractors have gone in and removed those concrete walls, torn out the footings, and then the hole that's left, the basement hole, is what they fill up and level to a mold condition, but they don't leave those concrete walls down in there.
In this case, though, would we think it was acceptable if they did pull out that concrete wall that's there for just, you're not going to have a level lot.
I understand you won't have a level lot, but if you're someone looking at going in to purchase that lot to build on it, right now, if I was to walk up to that lot, I'm looking at another $10,000 to dig all that out, tear all that concrete out so that I can have a place to put a new footing. Because right now, that's not a lot that can be built on because that existing concrete footing is there unless I'm going to build the exact same style of house, same size that was there previously.
And Kelly, I think you actually had talked to the contractor, correct? About.
Yeah, it's the same thing Tim said that, or what Bill had shared with you is that he's saying that if that retaining wall wasn't there, it wouldn't hold that dirt, and that's why he left it. But he didn't.
Well, but the thing here, there's no change order that says leave the wall.
Right. No,
If we had gone in and said leave the wall, that would have been a change order. Then there would be no question. But here we're not doing the job per the instructions.
Yeah, my comment to him was when it got come to pay, it wasn't done towards the commission's satisfaction that you guys would just make a decision on it whether or not that was acceptable.
Well, it looks terrible from around behind, and to me, it's not payable.
So the concrete that's left, we'd all agree that probably shouldn't be there, or is that acceptable? On the ground,
It depends
just
on how much dirt you want to hold there, and yeah.
I just meant the concrete chunks that probably haul off usually. I don't know.
No, the concrete chunks, there is especially one very large, sizable chunk that's there, and then some smaller pieces that are there. Four of us wouldn't pick up that piece that's there and move it. It's that big. The other ones are smaller.
I haven't been by there. So is that, and I don't know, is that supposed to be removed before the job is completed or no?
But typically it is. If you ask anybody that's going to do demolition, and it's like.
So when you talk to the contractor, any reason why that wasn't removed?
Well, he said the county said they don't want any more of that. He had several reasons. And I said, well, it's going to have to be kicked back to the commission because it wasn't payable until we had more information.
But I do think going forward, we'll have to make some clarifications regarding basements. Do we want the basements completely gone or not? Because
And also we have to define compaction.
Mm-hmm.
There's no definition of compaction here.
Because it does, you're right, it does conflict, Pete, where the line above says all building materials are to be removed, including the footing, but the very next sentence says any basements under structure can be filled with soil.
Did you have anything, Bill?
Well,
I've had conversation with Mr. Zellner and Commissioner Van Hookey about this property, and I think everybody brings up points that have merit to them. I agree with Commissioner Allen and Commissioner Wells that the excess pieces of concrete that are there around the property need to be disposed of, and I don't ever want to question anybody's integrity, but I feel like there's been a bit of untruthfulness about whether the dump will actually take that or not, because it's my understanding they actually will. I think that that property needs to be cleaned up more to your satisfaction before we pay the contractor on that. I'll defer to you all as to whether or not the northern concrete wall stands or comes down.
And I do understand what you're saying, Tim, about the excess cost, but I believe that that's why these other contractors probably bid the job as high as they did, because they realized that taking out that concrete footing was going to require an excess amount of dirt and compaction to do what needed to be done. Otherwise, I don't see why they would have bid it so high compared to the bid that was accepted.
That could be, but I think this guy also won one of the bids on the one up there on 1517, who's a low bidder as well. So maybe he looked at this and thought, all I got to do is fill in the foundation. Obviously, there were a lot more things that should have been done, like removing the debris that was not. But I do think that's something, if we redo these bid requests, we need to clarify.
Yes, sir. I agree with you on that.
So is there a motion to remove it, or what do you?
I would say yes. We need a motion to remove that from the consent agenda, and then we can vote on the rest of it.
I just have one question on the on Earl's. What's Fort Scott Phase 1?
That is a evaluation report, which you'll get tonight to review on the sewer treatment plant, I believe. We can, yeah.
I may have missed overlooked that. I seen your other ones, but I didn't see. Oh, well, I see.
Yeah, I just brought these tonight, so.
So is that something that we would want to look at?
Was this something? I mean, we've already approved. Or?
Yes, yeah, that was a contract to complete that. Yeah.
Are we going to get an update on these projects tonight?
Yes, you can.
Okay, I'd like to.
Just a couple things I had on the utility bills, the electric. I noticed some of them were pretty high, and some of them in there, oddly enough, are, thank you, Mark, are like, it has an address, like meter 910 Burke. That's very self-explanatory. That would be the water treatment plant, I believe, and it was around $4,500. And then the next one underneath it is going to say, and this is on page 9 of 21, in case anybody's wondering where I'm at. And the next one underneath it says commercial accounts, monthly utility service, $6,000. And there's really no description of where it is. And then you go on down, and there's one for $11,366, and there's no description of what it is either. It's just electric bill, $11,366. So I was wondering if we couldn't. I'm not saying that we probably didn't burn the electricity. I'm just saying it would be nice if we had a little better description of where they're at, where we can see what's taken. I'm sure that's probably the sewer treatment plant or something like that. But I noticed some of them had addresses and some of them didn't. So
the account numbers, I'm probably not loud enough here. I don't have the account numbers memorized, but the account numbers here refer to the specific location. So without having that list next to me here, I could not explain that to you. But going forward, yes, we can have a greater definition for that if you so desire.
The very last page in the payouts have the account numbers on there.
do they?
So you can go back through and.
But is it possible to go ahead and put them to where we can read them out to the side like some of them are? Is that something you do, Diane?
You can ask Janet.
Janet? If you would be so kind as to do that, I would appreciate it. So that way I don't have to go back and look at a bunch of numbers and come back and figure out what it is. The other thing I had was on utilities, the telephone, long distance. We talked about that leaving. Does that leave on January 1st, Mark? Are you sure? Are we still going to be paying long distance?
Until Shane, the IT director, can get things coordinated, it's not an easy coordination. it is very complicated, and those are things that we'd like to get out of here as soon as possible, but that's not capable or possible at this time. There's a contract, and I don't know when that contract expires, but I will be happy here to look that up. It does say on there, well, that's the December service bill.
Right.
But that's another Janet question. And I'll take a note here, and I will get with Janet so we have it at the next meeting or even before.
Appreciate it, Mark. Any other questions? Okay, so are we looking at approving the consent agenda, or did you want to pull that item, or what do you want to do?
You can approve it with the removal of item number C.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking the commission, what's your desire?
That's my motion is that.
Oh, do you make the motion?
Yes.
Okay. Was there a second?
I'll second.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Abstain. Okay, next item on the agenda is public comments. Do we have any public comments, Diane?
One.
That's not, okay. Thank you, public. Pay attention out there. So up next, we have old business, discussion of changing city zoning regulations regarding fencing and assessing a standard fee for license. We got Bill to speak on it.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, in your agenda packet, you should have had another proposal for proposed addendum 20-901, letter J like John. And at the last commission meeting, you had directed me to add some language into this proposed addendum regarding setbacks and things of that nature. So if you'll notice, we added in another sentence at the bottom of the proposal that says that setback for a fence shall be in accordance with the zoning of the property, R1, 2, or 3, as defined in the zoning regulations, Articles 2-23, 2-24, and 6-02. So in your packet, I gave you a copy of the proposed addendum along with the zoning regulation definitions for setbacks, as well as the actual setback numbers as you'll see in the table labeled 6-602. So I'm hoping that meets with your satisfaction. Mr. Farmer has approved it, Mr. Zellner has approved it, and I'm hoping that tonight this will meet with your approval.
Discussion?
Well, yeah, I think we're having a problem here figuring out what's defined as the property line. These setbacks, as explained here, minimum yard regulations, I'm not sure what this is telling us. On 6-602 yard regulations, are we saying that on an R1 front yard, is this a building setback regulation, or is this a fence setback regulation, or what is this?
My understanding, Commissioner Allen, is that this table that you're looking at, labeled 6-602, is for building, and it covers all three residential zonings, R1, 2, 3, and the numbers, interestingly enough, are the same for all three. I think if we're going to use this table in our fence building ordinance, then we're talking, let's say, a side yard here, then the fence would have to be 6 feet from the property line. The question is, does every property owner in town know where their property lines are? And that's kind of the struggle we've been coming up against here in this discussion the last few meetings.
Well, according to the information that you've given us on page 2-24, it defines the setbacks front, interior, side, and rear. So the setback from the front is to extend from the street right-of-way line. So that would indicate, if I'm not misreading this, that that's 6 feet from the right-of-way. So, for instance, if we use the national thing as an example, that would be 30 feet from the center of the road plus an additional 6 feet, according to the information that you've given us.
Right, that's the way I see it. It's the way it's always been.
And it's the same on the side. If it's on a side street, it extends from the street right-of-way line. So it'll be an additional, whether it's on the front or the side, it would be 6 feet past the right-of-way. Is that the way it reads to everyone else? Okay.
Yep. And I think the question that came up at the last meeting is, how do we define setbacks and what are those numbers?
Right.
And we went and found them here in the zoning regulation. I wanted to make sure to provide them to you.
Yes.
So you would know that they do actually exist in our zoning regulations.
So what it's telling me is that the fence that was installed on 12th Street it's almost adjacent to the curb, and it should be 36 feet behind the curb,
No, third. So,
behind the center line.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
36 feet from the center line.
Yeah. From the
Yeah,
center line.
and Commissioner Allen, I agreed with you that the fence is over the line. We agreed with that. I think one of the challenges I'm having that the commission could help me with is if we go to the fence regulation, which is 20-901. Let me get there. In the zoning regulation 20-901, letter D, David, I'll just read it since you all don't have a copy of this. It says a property owner may install a fence within a dedicated easement at his or her own risk of having to remove or repair such fence due to the lawful activities of persons or entities under the easement. That's why we had Mr. Farmer draft a letter to several different property owners advising them that their fences were on the easement or right of way and the risks that they incur by having done so. But maybe what we need to do, gentlemen, is remove or reword this particular aspect of the zoning regulations. So
No,
that
I think it means what it says, but there's a huge difference between a property line and an easement line. The right-of-way line is a property line. That's owned by the city. That is not owned by the property. So he has no authority. In fact, having a fence on public property is illegal. But an easement is an easement that's granted on his property, not on public property. The easement is granted on his property. Like if they wanted to put a sewer line across his property, then he would give them an easement. Then this would apply, that if he built a fence across it, but that's on his property. He does not have no one has an easement on public property. That 30 feet from the center line is owned by the citizens. That's our street. His property line is 30 feet from the center line, approximately. And we don't want to get tied up with 30 feet, because that's if the street is in the very center of the right of way, then it is 30 feet.
Yes, sir.
If it's offset, well, then it's different. So, but you're confusing the property line with an easement line. An easement is on private property. That's his property. If he gives KG&E an easement to build a line across there, then that's on his property, but he cannot give KG&E an easement to build on public. So that fence is illegally placed according to what we're looking at here.
Okay, and I will defer to the commission how you want me to handle that moving
I'm sorry?
forward. I said, I will defer to the commission how you want me to address that moving forward.
Well, according to ordinance, it's illegal. So you do what you have to do. You do what prescribed methods that you have. If you have to give him a notice to vacate, if you have to give him, whatever it is that you're required to do. But that fence and several other fences down there are illegally on public property. And if it's a matter of where their property line is, then it's their responsibility to know where their property line is.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's why you get a survey, and
Yeah.
if you don't have enough room to build a fence on your property, then you need to get a different property or what have you.
And I would say the property line is approximately 30 feet from the center line of the street, approximately.
It does, that verbiage that he reads, though, does make it confusing, if you're a homeowner. So I can see, would it be better getting rid of that verbiage completely?
Well, no, that has to do with an easement.
Right.
You need that for the easement.
For the
but
easement
this
part,
is
but
not
that
an
has nothing to do
easement
with
we're
the
talking
fence.
about.
Right. The one concern I had on there was when it talks about wood slats, when it talks about iron. I mean, you talk about twisting things. Is iron, would that be considered metal? Like if you wanted to build one out of tin, like if you said, I'm going to build a fence and I'm going to get 10-foot chunks of just galvalume, would that be legal under the iron part? If I said, I'm just going to line my whole property with galvalume, like barn tin, could I do that under the iron? Would that be considered?
No, sir.
That
And I think the example we gave last time when we talked about that, Mr. Mayor, was the fence that Commissioner Allen is talking about, just east of that, just before 69,
right?
On, the one I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Van Hoeken and I found one on the west side of town that has wood posts and it's black tarp all the way around. I mean, that's why I say when I go to a box store to buy fencing materials, it has to be material that you would normally
Build a
find.
fence out of.
Yeah, exactly. So we want to avoid that because I think that's.
See, I'm seeing a lot of fabric fences come up now.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
People are getting very creative for
Was
making
the
their
fence
privacy
itself
fences.
fabric, or was it just fence fabric that had been applied to it?
Well, it'd be like posts, like you would have T-posts and installed, and then just take fabric and roll it out around it. I've noticed several of those around there.
Yeah, there's one over off of Margrave that's like goat fence
Right.
with the T-post, and then they've got that fabric.
Right.
All around it. So are you saying then, based on before this fence went in, this one in particular we're talking about on 12th Street, that you're wanting to take action to actually have that removed, or is it still under the stipulation that the homeowner was told that, hey, if fire or police or the water department or anybody have to get in here, this thing's coming down and we're not putting it back up? Which direction are we going here with this?
That's a question for Kelly and his group. It's illegal, according to ordinance. It's illegal. It's illegally placed. So whatever that has to be done should be done. That fence should go.
Then I will visit with Mr. Zoner and Mr. Farmer about that and figure out how to move forward.
Yeah, that's why we hired you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pete.
So according to this new one that you've laid out, though, it makes it very clear that from now on, the setback is the setback from the right of way. So there won't be any questions.
From the property line.
Yeah, and to your point, Commissioner Wells, we spent some time talking to other jurisdictions, actually some of the larger jurisdictions, to ask them, how do you guys do this? And so we kind of have a template to work off of. Some of the bigger jurisdictions don't go inspect the property beforehand, but they do a post inspection. I'm in favor of doing it beforehand. That way we don't run into this buzzsaw again, and we're not setting people up for failure. I think we need to give people the opportunity to be successful, and So if we go view the work site before and after the project, I think that sets better with me. And I think that's what I would like to see us do, if that's agreeable with y'all.
Yeah, I think that's good stuff.
What about these fences that are already built out of these other materials? Like you were saying, looks like barn metal.
Right.
It's been stretched between 4x4s. I mean, are those grandfathered in? Are we gonna go around codes team, tell them you gotta take them down and put something else up? What's the plan with those? Anybody have an opinion on that?
What's the date on the requirement?
Well-
Where the fences, was that ordinance in effect when they put the fence up?
No.
I'm
Because
sorry.
this is a new order. This is
It's a new ordinance,
addendum.
but-
So I guess that's what I need to know is, are these existing fences going to be grandfathered in since the ordinance or the zoning regulation is new?
Well, they can't be grandfathered in as far as placement on public property because that's an 1800 ordinance. So if it's on public property, it needs to be moved. As far as the materials they're using, that I don't know. I don't know on that.
Typically, what we've always done is reach out to the homeowner and let them know that they're in violation. Have them work with the code enforcement officer on timing to make corrections according to our city zoning and codes, so that way it's we have a record of them and their accomplishment date, as well as it being where they can manage that in an effective way.
Well, I would just say, since it's basically on looks and not safety, someone has done this beforehand. I really don't want to force everyone that's has a fence out there 20 years ago saying, hey, you got to change the look of it. So I
Right.
prefer if they did it before this ordinance on the looks, the material, that we just say, hey, it's changed. So if you do any more, just let them know. But I hate to say, hey, you need to change this now. So
I agree with you, Josh. That would be a mess at this point. You'd like to go back and have everybody have perfect picket fences, but that's not the community we live in. So we want to get along with our neighbors. As
Yeah,
well.
and I agree with that. I was just getting clarification to what extent
Sure.
it was going to. I mean, if the fence is up, if it's not on the public right of way, leave it. But if they're going to replace it with anything, replace it correctly.
Right.
The last thing then is permit fees. When it comes to building permits, and if the job is less than $1,000, our permits are actually free. So I don't know if you want to continue to use that pricing model that we have for other permits, or if you want to charge like a nominal $20 fee. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. I'm not sure how the commission feels about that.
Here's how I feel about building permits and things, on projects like this. I think that the cheaper you make them, especially if you make them free, people are going to be apt to get them. If you start charging a fee, then they're going to say, I'm already in debt on this fence. I'm not going to go give another $20, $50. And then that's when all the cowboy fences go up. Because now I'm not going to tell you what I'm doing. I think if we make them free, then they're going to go up there, they're going to get the thing, and that gives you the alert that I probably need to drive by here and see what you're doing before it's too late. So I think they ought to be free.
And you said that was on jobs below $1,000. There's no fee.
Yeah, the way our permits are priced are based on the price of the job.
Right.
Anything up to $999, there is no fee for those permits, regardless of the type of permit that it is.
And I would think that that's the way that we should continue to go. If it's below $1,000, there should not be a fee. Once it hits that $1,000 mark, and then it is based upon the price of the job is how much the permit is.
It's $1 for, I believe if it's a construction job, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's $50, is it? And then $1 for every 1,000.
Diane, can you want to clarify that for us?
I thought it was,
Isn't it
what
20?
did you say? 25 and then $10 for every 1,000 after that.
$10 for every
Yes,
1,000.
but I'm doing that off the top of my head too.
I think we talked about we might want to relook at those as we go through with.
Absolutely.
So I don't know if it's something.
Yeah, you can bring
at a
back
later
to us.
time.
And it's been explained to me that those current prices that Ms. Clay just referred to were increased by commission within the last couple of years. So
And
Yeah,
the,
if you could
the other
bring-
thing, you could come back with how many permits we have put out in the last year even. I'd
Yeah.
love to see how many permits we've issued.
I think I have a year-end statistical report I gave to Mr. Zellner that should list how many permits our office issued for 2021.
Yeah, because at $10 for every 1,000 over, that could get pretty steep pretty quick.
Especially if you're putting up a wooden fence right now with the price of wood.
Exactly. But we're not. We're putting up goat fence.
If you guys want to do a 6-foot privacy fence, you might spend $2,000 in permit fees.
Exactly. And your neighbor will have a zip gun out there taking it away that night. So, anything else that you guys want to talk about fencing?
So is the ask that you want us to go ahead and approve this particular?
Affirmative, along with the pricing that you all just talked about as well.
Does anyone else have a problem approving what he's presented us tonight?
Well, I don't see what he presented us though, where it has the fee in there for a building permit for the fences. So are we just voting on the ordinance itself without permit fees?
I believe we could do that this evening if that's what we choose, and then have the fees brought to us and vote on those at another time.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah. I would make a motion that we vote to approve the addendum zoning regulation 2901.J regarding right-of-way and fence construction in Fort Scott.
I would say, go ahead.
Second? Anyone?
We got one.
Josh got it? Okay, thank you. I just talking to the mic, please, Josh.
Yeah, he wasn't in his mic, but
I apologize.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Tim Van Hooky.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes. And I would like to request too, when you bring back the discussion to permit fees, bring back construction permits also, so we know what all building permits cost.
Yes, sir.
So we can
I'll do
discuss
that.
Thank
You want that in 2 weeks, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll do it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, up next we have public hearings or public appearances, and I will go ahead and ask Jody if you would like to present now what you need to talk about.
Thank you guys so much for having me here, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for letting us come in and present today, myself and Rachel Carpenter, who I call my partner in crime. I'm really looking forward to seeing all you guys at our headquarters tomorrow for dinner. There's some new faces here that aren't really familiar with the Healthy Bourbon County Action Team. Our mission is to increase access to physical activity, healthy foods, promote tobacco cessation, enhance quality of life, and encourage economic growth. So since our inception in 2016, we have really been laser focused on improving the health outcomes of Bourbon County by addressing the social determinants of health through a policy, systems, and environmental change approach. The social determinants of health have a handful of categories. They're community and social context, neighborhood and environment, food, healthcare, education, and economic stability. So we have lots of different initiatives in each one of these categories for addressing the social determinants of health that are very meaningful projects. So one of the things that we are here to talk to you guys about is our creative placemaking project. And this project really falls under that community and social context category in the social determinants of health. So creative placemaking is more than just putting a waterfall or a water fountain in a downtown or a park or something. It's about bringing neighborhoods together and taking ownership of a piece of land and instilling pride and in your community and enhancing, overall morale. The American Planning Association defines creative placemaking as a process where community members, artists, arts and culture organizations, community developers, and other stakeholders use arts and cultural strategies to implement community-led change. This approach aims to increase vibrancy, improve economic conditions, and build capacity among residents to take ownership of their communities. So with our creative placemaking process, it's really about bringing together public, private, nonprofit, and community sectors to strategically shape the physical and social character of our neighborhoods or even our town. So the Fort Scott Area Chamber of Commerce have formally signed a partnership and a pledge to work with the Healthy Bourbon County Action Team on assessing the current conditions and committing to link our joint placemaking efforts to promote healthy eating and active living in a tobacco-free space. So we have also received overwhelming enthusiasm and support from Josh Jones and Kevin Allen. We are going to be doing a lot of really meaningful work over on the east side of town, as well as in our downtown area, with substantial amount of funds from the Patterson Grant and Blue Cross Blue Shield. Sean and Shelley Goins of Fort Scott Gun and Pawn have been instrumental in the conversations, as well as residents like Cleet Hall, and then also support organizations like Melinda Blake Bailey with the Southeast Kansas Mental Health Centers. So through the process that Rachel will talk to you guys about, we're going to be seeking more of those community voices, those usually we call them unusual voices, is those voices that aren't typically heard. We want to give people a voice to have power and to have a say-so in what goes on in their own neighborhoods, and bring the power and the voice back to people. So we're not asking for any commitment from you guys tonight, but I would ask that you guys think about formally joining as a partner in our initiative in the future, just like the Chamber of Commerce has done, because we believe there is so much that we can do together, so much that we can be gained together through this initiative, especially with the resources that we have, and with the T-Mobile grant that you guys have on being able to leverage our resources, perhaps to match some of those funds that you guys have there. So without further ado, here is Rachel Carpenter. She is the Healthy Bourbon County Action Team's program coordinator, and will share with you some exciting details of this community-led project. And I will see you guys tomorrow.
Thank you, Jody. And I was hoping this podium was a little shorter, but it's fine. So she spoke a little bit about the Patterson Family Foundation grant. We received it in October. It was a little over $560,000. Within this grant, there's $140,000 for placemaking projects, and we also have $10,000 from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So one of the placemaking projects that we're doing is a downtown arch, and we will be working closely with the chamber to build the arch by Scubitz Plaza. And like Jody said, we'll be willing to work with the T-Mobile grant as well. We also have the East Side project. We have $70,000 allotted for this project, and we really want to open up the floor for the East Side residents to be involved in this project, and they get to decide what project it is and where it will be on the East Side. Part of getting those voices to be part of this conversation is that we set up a planning committee, and on that planning committee we have key leaders such as Josh Jones and Kevin Allen. Thank you so much for your time and dedication to this project. In this committee, we are strategically planning on engaging the community, and part of that plan is holding a public forum. We are calling this forum Stronger Together, Building Up Our Neighborhoods. This event will be held on Saturday, February 26th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. at the Fort Scott Fire Station 2 located on the east side. We intend to have as many east side residents there as possible, and we really want to have an open floor for them to just express their ideas on this project. At this event, we'll have breakfast catered, and there will be door prizes as incentives. Does anyone have any questions about the projects?
I think it's really good. I mean, we had good discussion the other night, and we struggled coming up with a name because we immediately wanted to say keep the East Side alive or something like that, but we didn't want to exclude anyone else. And I think one of our main goals is to take away from the East Side, West Side. Kelly, you weren't here back when we were younger, but the schools were split up, and you either went to a grade school at Eugene Ware or you went to Winfield Scott. And what it would do, in my opinion, was it would draw a line. And obviously the East Siders got a problem with the West Siders, and we it sounded cool, but it really wasn't that big a deal. But one of the things that happened was the school USD 234. They brought the schools together. So now I believe grades kindergarten through third, second is at Winfield Scott, and then as they progress, they go to Eugene Ware. So now everybody's growing up with each other all these years. So that's helped bring it together. And but like they said, it's really cool that they're going to be able to allot some money over there for a project, because if there's one thing that we need some interesting things on that side of town to help develop it and help kids. And so it'll be nice to have the people of the community actually show up and give us their ideas. And I'm sure we'll build a roller skating rink, and I don't think they have that kind of money, but we'll sort through them and get something good for that side of the community. Did you guys have any other comments?
I'm excited about what y'all are doing. I think it's amazing opportunity for our community, and I hope that we can partner with y'all on some projects.
Yeah, the other project, there's an east side, $70,000 going to east side, and then there's going to be a downtown arch type of project to have the downtown seen as like a destination. It's because studies show that low-income populations will travel by foot or bicycle to locations they consider to be a destination. So we want to have our population of focus, which is low-income, minority, youth, and elderly, and the vulnerable. We want them to be a part of that conversation and a part of that process, so they see our downtown as a destination where our services are, with the Center for Economic Growth, to build career opportunities or wealth with building on business. There's healthcare there. There's shops there. There's commerce there, and so we want to encourage everybody, regardless of socioeconomic status, to be able to use and to gain access to those systems that we have in our community. So there'll be another $70,000 for the Arch project and another $10,000 from Blue Cross Blue Shield for that project.
And this arch will be similar to the one over in Parsons?
We do not have any agenda.
Okay.
We are working with the Chamber of Commerce to really lead the way in the path on that. I think it'll be amazing. Personally, this is Jody, because I'm a visionary person, if we could work with the T-Mobile grant and leverage some of these funds so that we had the farmers market, and then we have this beautiful art display that's done by a local artist, and then we have like a beautiful arch. Maybe the local artist is able to do the arch, and then having benches there and lit areas that encourage healthy behaviors and walking and those types of things right at the entrance as you come into our community. I think I can see it in my head, and I think it'll be beautiful.
So have you looked at all at as far as the farmers market goes, and for something healthy with the T-Mobile grant? I actually talked to Jackson Tuff earlier in the week about putting some type of covered pavilion at the farmers market. I mean, if you get a chance, get online, look up Merriam, Kansas, MERRIAM, and key in farmers market, and look at the turnaround that took place there.
Yeah, those covered pavilions would just be a dream for our community. You're speaking to the choir on that. There's USDA grants and things like that actually are specifically for farmers market pavilions and things. So yes, I mean, I'm not sure we have that much funds, but this might be in the step in the right direction towards something like that. Maybe we do have that much funds. I don't know.
Well, I mean, with the T-Mobile grant, I don't know what else. It doesn't.
I'm not super familiar with the T-Mobile grant. I have been told that this might be a good project to support with matching funds, and that they would go well together. But from what I've seen, which is minimal on the T-Mobile grant, is a lot of it is planning and engineering and architectural type of things. And so we'll just have to look at it and see, and work with T-Mobile to see what we can do with it.
I think it's great. I appreciate all you guys' hard work and including us in on it. So anything we can get as far as the city to help us is very much appreciated.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Up next, we're going to have Rob. he's going to speak to us about something. Not sure yet. He's got a big deal coming here, I'm sure.
Good evening. You all hear me? I'm just here to give an update on three things that was asked to work on for the commission. Number one, I was asked by multiple commissioners to look into CDBG grants, specifically the competitive ones regarding water, sewer, and community facilities, and whether we could do both at the same time. And working with Jenny Erdley with CDBG at the state was notified that we cannot. We have to choose one on a competitive per year. So with that knowledge, I came and spoke with Kelly, and we spoke, what was it, last week, a few days ago, and talked about it. And it's mine and Kelly's opinion, and I don't want to speak for Kelly, but we kind of agree that we believe you probably should go towards maybe the water one instead, and because we can look at other opportunities for Memorial Hall, such as some KDOT handicapped accessible grants and things for the steps and other things, and we can take that into smaller projects and then look at maybe next year going for a community facilities grant. So I wanted to touch base on that, let y'all know what we found. Secondly, land bank. Everyone knows the land bank was successfully completed last week. The land bank, or excuse me, the tax sale was completed last week, and through that, the land bank received 14 properties. These properties will be handed over probably within the next month or so after all the paperwork. The deeds office is kind of behind, and so she asked that we be patient with her, and I said no problem. But with that, I wanted to bring back to the commission the conversation we had last meeting about the funds for land bank. After looking at this, it looks like there's going to be 7 properties on the 14 that we received that are going to need to be demoed. Looking into it, and we're talking with the mayor and some other individuals who demo for a living and do that. We're looking at probably close to about $35,000 for those demos, and then plus the fees that come after the land bank. I don't know exactly how much those fees will be, but there will be some fees regarding title changes and deeds and stuff. And so with that, I wanted to reach out to the commission again and ask that you think about placing some of the money from the first source sale into the land bank. We've been on a number of 50,000. I think that'd be more than enough to cover all the demos of those 7 houses, and plus some fees for the changing over the titles and everything, and then give us some funds to carry into the next sale and look at those properties as well. I'm not sure how many there'll be, but I believe there's at least 3 or 4 on there that have specials assessments assigned to them, which I would assume would come over to the land bank. And then I believe a couple of them are would need to be demolition as well.
Rob, question.
Yes, sir.
Did the codes team or someone go out and come up with a total of 7? Because I went through that list during the auction, and I only think I saw 3 that were on the existing demo list now.
That's why after I messaged you the day, I came up with 3, and I think actually 2 now.
I thought we had said something, Mr. Downey. I thought there were 7 upon the conversation.
I think it's 3, and like Jeff said, I think one of those are gone.
Well, or I think, there's 3 right now,
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Jones. There are 3, North Crawford, South Crawford, 210 South Crawford, definitely. I'm trying to remember the address on.
It was 201 South Crawford.
There was one at
201 South Crawford, 114 North Crawford, or 116.
There was one on East First.
Yeah, the one on East
1301
First.
East First, I think.
I think that should be demolition as well. I mean, from the front, you can't see the damage to the house, but if you go around the back, you can see where the roof is starting to collapse. So I would recommend that all 3 need to be demolition.
Well, with that, then we obviously don't need the 50. So I think that's about 15,000 there. Then
No, and that's good. I just wanted to clarify where there are more that were identified since the tax sale last week.
What I understood, there were 7 there that needed to be demoed, but I'm glad there's less.
So can those be bid out for demo right now? I mean, are they on the condemn list where they can be put out to demo?
Tim, do you have that?
And mainly the ones 116 North Crawford and then 1311 East First.
You could, I'm sure you could demo them right now if you wanted and not wait until the land bank. The idea with the land bank was, if the land bank gets those, and Mr. Farmer, correct me if I'm wrong, but we don't have to go through all the hoops and red tape that the city would as the land bank. But I could. So, okay.
I believe you're correct. You don't have all the same limitations, but I want to double check before we start actually taking people's houses
Yes.
down.
Well, we would still
Kelly and I
bid that and everything.
that
I just
too.
think it'd be. And then Mr. Downey pointed out that it wouldn't come out of his budget if the land bank did it. So.
Right. Right.
Right. So we're here to help.
Everybody pinching them pennies.
So anyway, 14 houses. Obviously, if there's only 3, that's great news. We got 11 houses that we're going to be able to turn around and get people in and developers in to fix up and put people in for rentals or purchases. So that's great. Land Bank Board, we have till Friday for letters of interest for that board. I would ask that after that, next meeting of this commission, that we choose that board. I believe you have 4 open seats to fill. And so those 4 individuals to fill those seats. And then soon after you fill those seats, I will be calling a land bank board meeting because I think it's very important that we get ahead of the game and get a plan of action for obviously the 3 that need to be demoed and then the 11 that don't, and figure out some fees and things.
Diane, how many applications have we received for the land bank board?
Off the top of my head, 7 or 8.
Okay. And 4 open seats. So everybody out there, still got time to apply. When are the applications due? Friday. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just add one
Sure.
piece of information. About a week ago, Ms. Clay provided to me an application where a citizen would like to donate their property to the land bank. So I'll be giving that application to Mr. Harrington. That'll actually give you 15 rather than 14.
So what needs to be done to start the process of demoing 1311 East First and 116 North Crawford?
He's asking you, Mr. Downey.
Sorry, Bill.
During my time,
Bill.
but that's okay.
I'll forget.
Yeah.
Sharon is caring.
Sharon's caring.
Josh, Mark brings up a good point. If the city doesn't have possession, do we?
No, but the city didn't have possession of the ones we just tore down either. That's what I'm asking. I know one's been.
So
I know
the property at 201 South Crawford is a flop house. My staff and I red tagged that house. It is marked for condemnation. We just had not started the official process. But now that the land bank has it, we don't have to go through that process. The land bank can do that.
We don't have the house yet. I mean, just remember that we haven't went
Right.
through the.
No, I understand all that, but we've been by the other houses. We know the
Yes.
shape they're in, and so I didn't know if we need to start condemnation process on those or
I'm
not.
happy to go red tape the other 2. We've not done that yet, but the one in the corner, Second and Crawford has been red taped.
Yeah.
I just my point is if you go and demo those, then that's on you guys. That's towards you and your budgets. And
What is the cost on doing a condemnation process? Does that cost the city anything?
Just some stamps and a couple letters.
Okay.
Well, and we publish it in the newspaper, so there's publication costs.
But it's not.
It's not.
It's not big.
No.
Right. I'm just wondering what the benefit is to demoing them now as opposed to letting the land bank demo them when they take possession.
I don't think there's much difference.
Okay.
I'm just trying to get it done.
I'm just
quick.
asking.
My thing is this time of year is probably the best time for people to demo, and I'm just trying to get the ball moving instead of waiting 6 months later and say, now let's do this.
Well, we should have possession within I would say a month. That's what she was thinking. 30 days, 30 to 40
I was
days.
saying whether we have possession or not, if they need condemned.
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I
It's not
agree.
costing
Yes.
nothing to condemn.
Yeah.
Then
I would just say we would tear those down as soon as we I would assume the board would approve to demo those as soon as.
And let's be honest, no matter if they're in the land bank or here, you're gonna ask the city for funds to tear them down, so the funds are all coming from the city, so.
I'm not going
Right,
to
but
disagree.
the way Mr. Downing's looking at it is that if the land bank does it, it comes out of the land bank fund instead of the codes fund.
Yeah, but they're being,
Well,
they're gonna be subsidized from the sale
Yeah,
of
and-
the first source
and-
building, so.
And it'd be my
The land
recommendation,
bank will,
but it was gonna be
down
my
the road.
recommendation, if we give money to the land bank to tear down, it comes out of the demo funds. So, to me.
Oh, that's
it
your
would,
recommend, okay.
that would, I mean, that's what I've been recommending anyways, we have demo funds, and.
I just know that according to Tim, there are a lot of other properties that need to be torn down. So if we were to put some money from the first source sale into the land bank and allow them to demo those, we can use the money to tear down more houses that need to be torn down.
Well,
Is
and
that correct?
Yeah, I think, Matthew, after the first few that were torn down, we had budgeted $50,000 before. I think there's still about 24,000 left in the funds already, so we wouldn't have to wait on land bank. There should be funds out there that we could vote on and get it going.
But my hope would be, and this is something I talked to Mr. McCoy about, but I've not had a chance to talk to Mr. Zellner about, is that if we have funds left over from the 2021 demo fund, I'm hoping we can roll that over to 22 so we can get more accomplished.
Yep.
If we pay for those demos and that's coming out of our ability, I suppose maybe in the end it's a 50-50 kind of proposition.
Yeah,
but
sure.
The whole idea was that the first source facility was used, the rent incoming, that was all economic development money that you use for economic development. And then when you sold the building for the amount you sold it for, my recommendation was to take a portion of that and put it over in the land bank to help with the demos and the fees and everything. Because we can take that funds and we can do so much more with those funds at the land bank.
Well, what I was just saying is, you guys should generate money a little bit
After this
and
year.
So, I mean, my recommendation would be to take part of the 16,000 that we're going to get from the sale that are assessments, and they'll all come back to us. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll get paid for the
So-
assessments.
Yeah, you'll get the assessments. Yeah.
I
Put
mean,
that towards demo.
well, I'd say put part of it towards the land bank. I mean, we got fees we got to pay in the land bank. So, I mean, I would make motion like to give $5,000 out of the, will that go into the general fund, the assessment?
You can pay the fees now too if you want. She has your card. I mean, she said, she asked me how we wanted to do it. Does the land bank want to pay for it, or does the city want to pay for it? It's up to you. If you want to pay for the fees and the demo and everything, if you guys want to pay for that, we're good with that, because we're going to turn around and make money off the properties. The land bank is to fund future
And to me,
development.
it's just the legal side of it. I don't know if the city can, I don't know if that'd be a Bob question, since the land bank's supposed to be on its separate entity. Can the city pay for the deeds for
Pay for the deeds.
the deed transfers for the tax sale? Each of them costs $75 or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the
whatever.
sale is.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that if you want.
Because she asked me if we wanted to go ahead and use the card and run the card, and I said no, let's wait. Because personally, I would feel better that if the land bank is receiving the properties, and the land bank does all the deed work and everything, and get it done. However, again, we go back to there's no funds. There's no funds in the till for that to happen. Now, I can go to Ready Board and ask Ready Board if they would do some funds as well, but yeah, that's not in my budget, and I never was asked. I didn't put that.
So
in
your
there.
recommendation is, I mean, we at least need money in the land bank fund to pay for the deeds.
To pay for the fees, yeah, the
So-
deed fees.
So I would make the motion to put $5,000 from the sale of the tax sale, the assessments, over to the land bank to pay for those as a start.
Okay.
I mean,
All right, that's fine.
that'd be my motion.
I'd second.
I got a question. Is there a redemption period on any of these properties? There's none.
Yeah, just a month. Once they go through the sale, it's real short. Real short.
Call the vote.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Jim Van Hookie.
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes. So
Okay.
none of that'll come from the lake fund?
No, I don't believe.
Not yet.
No.
Tim was
That's-
asleep over there.
That's after the next sale.
Not yet.
Hello.
Well, that's the other.
That's 3 sales from now when they sell all the Hidden Valley lake lots. Then they'll be fun.
Oh yeah, thanks, Rob. I forgot about that.
And then the last thing I had was on the NRP. I just want to give you an update on neighborhood revitalization program. So we have the county, the city, and the school district now have all agreed. We've got 3 signatures, including yours. I have meet with the college next week to finalize that. I don't see any problem with that happening. They'll sign that interlocal agreement. After the interlocal agreement is signed by all the entities, we'll need to submit that to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General says they have 30 to 90 days to approve all interlocal agreements. They give that wide range. It'll probably be 90 days, 89. They'll get it to us a day early. But if that's the case, I just want to, give, 1st of May is when the NRP will be ready to use. There's a lot of projects out there that's waiting on the NRP to be enacted again. And so I would say when it's ready by the 1st of May, we're going to see a huge influx of requests for that incentive. But I think it's a necessary incentive to have. It's going to be something that it's going to be very successful, I see, in the upcoming months in 2022 and then thereafter for new development coming into town. And so I'm excited about it. But just want to give you an update on that timeline-wise. But next Monday we meet with the community college and should have that last signature approved then. So are there any other questions for me regarding ready projects that we can talk about?
Yeah, on the NRP, what are you thinking ahead on as far as a vehicle to kind of educate the public on how they can use it and the benefits of it?
Sure. I think we've spoke on this once before at this meeting. I think it would be great to have some type of public town hall to discuss the NRP, the options, the ability to use those things. And then I would really love to put a one-pager together for real estate agents in town to, when they market our community, to market the fact that there is a NRP. Because a lot of times, you buy the house, you come in town, and 9 times out of 10, you walk in and, my wife didn't like the way this looked or didn't like the way that looked. And now I've got 15 honey-do list projects that, the deck, rebuild a deck or add a deck, and then that all, can be used towards your NRP. So.
Yeah, I think Bill, something good when they go get permits. I mean, we need to speak about when they get building permits.
Yeah, hand those out. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Because it's a great program that we have not used, I don't think, very well in the past. I mean, I think there's some people. I think Jody, you might have used it, hole in the wall, when you did the rehab down there. Yeah.
But the city, you're right. The city of Fort Scott has not used it to its fullest opportunity.
Yeah.
It has got lots of opportunity to help the city of Fort Scott with their property valuations and the area tax goals.
So, and talking with Mr. Quick, I mean, he's willing to. I mean, it all goes through his office. Obviously, the application, everything goes through there. But he's ready to start doing it. We just can't do anything until we legally can't. So it's just. So beginning of May, we're crossing our fingers. That's when it happens. So
I will say I just got a message. There is no redemption period on tax sale properties. So
okay, there you go.
So no redemption period.
Thank you for finding that out, Josh.
Yeah.
Good president.
Just a vast of knowledge, right?
Yeah, he's doing good.
Fountain of
Keep him
knowledge
around.
down there.
And I thought he was ordering a pizza on his phone. But anyway, appreciate your time, Rob. Thanks for talking. Under new business, we have the discussion of wage scale. Brad?
I think you have to have the deed before you compare it.
Unless we go through the condemnation.
Yep, everybody's out here with the condemnation process. I would always have to send out the letter, give the owner the ability to come in here and refute it.
Yeah, you have to do public hearing and all that. So you're right, it might be better to wait.
Yeah, that way you have deeds.
Well, you don't own the property, you have the deed. So if it takes 30 days, it's going to be whatever. Yeah.
Okay, good evening. My name's Brad Matkin. I'm the Director of Human Resources for the City of Fort Scott. I wanted to come forward tonight to talk about our wage scale ordinance. The first page I gave you, ordinance number 3561, is the current wage scale that we're using. As you can tell at the bottom, it was drafted and approved on April of 2020, so it's almost 2 years old, and we felt it was time to create a new one, to develop a new wage scale going forward. Page 2 is the new one that we created for you to look at. The reason I brought this for you just to look at, to study, and then we can discuss more next meeting, but I wanted to make sure you're aware of it. Some of the changes you'll see in the new wage scale is I broke out, I actually named them both section 2 because they're non-exempt, but hourly positions, and then I put public safety hourly positions in their own little bundle there, plus the salaried positions. When looking at these, a couple things to remember: it is almost 2 years old. Also, you have to realize the world has changed since 2020. So we are faced with a lot of competition when we're hiring people. A lot of our companies in Fort Scott are throwing out some big starting wages. We have advantage of a great benefit program, and that is something that I try to sell very hard when I go looking for people to bring in. But we also need to be fair to make sure they can put, food on the table and pay rent. So that is, where we brought up some of the hourly wages. Looking at, the range doesn't mean somebody starting at the minimum. If they bring in good qualification, they could be starting in the middle or upper. It just depends on what they bring to us. So that is what I wanted to bring up tonight to you to look at. Feel free to ask me any questions. I will try to do my best to answer. If I can't, I will find an answer for you. So that's about it for that part.
My question is, if we adopt this, how does it look for the rest of the staff when you bring someone in now at $1.50 more starting, and when there's probably people who've been here a year or two that's probably not making that? I mean, do we bump them up the same amount, or what would be the suggestion there?
I'll be honest with you. We have had to do that because to bring in a good member, the people we already have that are already established, that are good members, or they wouldn't be here, we've had to move them up the ladder, or we wouldn't be able to get the new people. We want to build to grow. We want to continue hiring the best that we can possibly hire. We don't just want to throw a number out there and hire the first person that comes in the door. We want to make sure we interview, make sure we scan, and really do our background check so we can get the best of the best. And that means we may have to pay a little bit more. But to be fair, the people that are already established that are giving us what we need, we may need to move them up, or they should be moved up.
I think that's the only fair way.
In the past, and not to knock anybody or anything that's going on, when somebody is doing something for us, getting a certificate, getting a CDL, whatever training they need to help us, we should compensate them. We should compensate them 50 cents here, 50 cents there, since they're doing something to benefit the city of Fort Scott and to make them a better member for us.
Brad, that brings a good point too. I, for one, know how important it is to have a CDL drivers. They're becoming few and far between, and they're going to make it harder. Within, I think, in February, you're going to have to attend college again. Is that true to become
Pretty
a
much, yes, unless you
CDL
can get
driver?
a teacher on staff or somebody that's been through it that can teach our members, and we're working on that.
I was going to say that's very important. I think if we can do that as far as the city,
Yeah, and I will say that's maybe a good cooperative with the county. 'Cause
absolutely.
I think they might be working on the same thing. So if there's one trainer for both entities, and maybe this might be a perfect time to get with the school bus drivers, college. If the four of us can work together, maybe have one in-house trainer.
I do believe I'll talk to Tom tomorrow. I believe Tom and Jerry and Tom. Jerry and Tom are working on that. So I think we've got a plan, but we will get with the other groups. I think that's a great idea because if we can save them some time and money also, it's a win-win for everyone.
Brad, where do you pull kind of your data or your baseline of the increases you were looking at?
The league.
I mean, was there a form, the league?
The league helped, plus just public knowledge of what everybody else in town is paying, plus what I have seen come into us since I've been here. So that's pretty much where I got it. The league is a big help. They put out a publication that has a lot of this data already in it for you, and plus just public knowledge and asking a favor here and there of what you're paying your people versus what we're paying our people, and it's come together pretty good. Is it perfect? Probably never going to be perfect, but it's I want it just to be fair.
I think it's good that we're addressing it because, like you said, we are at a time in America where you got to pay more to get the proper help, and everything's going up. You know, like Tim said earlier, lumber to fuel to whatever is skyrocketed. So we got to compete. I think it's great, and I don't think you got overzealous on it. Just looking through them, I think it's a nice little bump, and we can review it, and then we'll come back to you next meeting. Go ahead.
No, that's all I was asking. Are you just looking for something maybe next meeting?
Yeah, next meeting's fine. I just wanted to give it to you tonight because I'm sorry I didn't get it done until yesterday, and Kelly and I met on it, and so I wanted to give it to you just to get you to look at it, and we'll discuss it next time, or you can approve it next time.
Yeah, I think that's good. That way everybody has a chance to mill through it and maybe add some, maybe take some away. Rachel's giving me an eye down there.
Adds a great word. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Brad. And I'm going to duck out on this next one, so I'll have the president take over.
Item B under new business, request to pay Sketches Hauling and Excavation. I'm assuming this was checked over like always with Janet and Susan checked it over. Okay, and everything was good. No, Kelly, nothing, no concerns or nothing. So.
No, I think it's completely approvable.
Okay.
We got pictures of it, and it's done a good job. Sketch has done a good job.
All right. So need a motion to approve.
I'll motion we approve it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookey,
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
There he is.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is consideration of proposal for environmental inspection quote for Memorial Hall. Jason.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, last time we went through and walked Memorial Hall, we kind of did a more thorough walkthrough than I did the first time, and we basically were thinking of a plan ahead. So I know one of the goals is pursue grants and basically come up with a plan. So whether you have a plan or not, if you want to do grants, you need these inspections. So this first one was a quote. There's a firm in up by Kansas City, which most of them are. The last one we used was out of Kansas City. And what they're proposing is to do the inspections for asbestos, lead, as well as the mold. I know we probably had an inspection in the genealogy area previously, but there's other water infiltration areas, so it'll be the whole thing. So
The whole building?
yes. So all three items again: asbestos, lead, and mold. And as we are familiar with the demo of Eagle Block and the importance of these inspections in your grant process, so we just want to get ahead of it. So you'll have it. It'll be ready to submit with any kind of proposals you do for grants.
And what was the price on that?
$5,700, I believe.
Was this, and I'm just asking, in the building inspection that we were paid for this morning, was this for you walking through Memorial Hall, or is it something else?
No, that contract is all tied to the Eagle Block demo, the Sharkeys, Hammond's building, all the effort, helping with the grant application, all of that stuff. That's
How
what that
many
is.
inspections do you think will be needed on Memorial Hall before it's ready to go out for grant?
I think the only one I'm waiting on a quote for a structural inspection. And that should be it.
Is this something you take bids on, or do you just
Kind of
constantly-
recommendations. So we use the structural firm that inspected Sharkey's and Hammond's building is where I'm getting a quote to inspect Memorial Hall, who recommended this firm, Occutech, for the other inspection. So it's more of a qualifications deal. But if you need more quotes, we can pursue that as well.
How soon would they be able to start on?
He said, let me see.
I mean, I'm kind of familiar with Occutech, not that I've worked with them before, but I'm in that industry. And to get the asbestos, lead-based, moisture, mold investigated, $5,700. That's pretty cheap, especially if there's anything hidden in there anywhere. Another $10 per inspection. And,
Right.
I mean, they'll give us the certifications, paperwork, documentation we need, so that when we go out for a grant, we've got that required
Sure.
stuff in hand.
I agree with you. When I seen the price, I thought that was for somebody putting their name on the line. That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, it was a good price. And based on their proposal, it just says they'll proceed with work upon receipt of the signed proposal and notice to proceed. So
Do we need to actually go out for bids on this, or can this be awarded since we're going?
it can,
through
if
you
you're
as
going to pay for it, because normally if you're chasing grants, they like to have that whole process. But one of the benefits of paying for these things up front is that provides emphasis on your desire to do this. So when you pay for the inspections and the reports outside of the grant money, because sometimes grants will pay for that, sometimes they won't. But the more you can put up front on the city's dime, essentially, the more they see that you
And I
really
think Tim
want
was
it.
asking, maybe I'm wrong, were you asking if we can approve Occutech or if it needs to go out to bid before?
Yeah, I mean, can we
Right.
approve it
I think
as it is?
the city manager can approve that.
Right, 'cause my only other question is financially, what fund will this come out of? Because I know there's not that much money in the Memorial Hall fund. So I don't know if you've looked into that, what fund it will come out of or not.
Don't.
The lake?
I knew where it was headed. I think that's. Do you have an answer for that right now, or we need to investigate that a little?
I can check with Susan and see if we have any project monies that are kind of loose.
I mean, we keep talking about the first source, and I know we've talked about that before, so I don't know if anyone would be interested in moving some of that first source money over to Memorial Hall fund to cover it or not. I don't know.
I mean, I don't have a problem with it because Memorial Hall needs attention.
Yeah.
So
What's the longevity on the report? How long will it be good for?
I'll need to check on that. That's a
Because
good point. I'll
the
see
way
if
Rob's
there's a-
talking, we're not going to be able to apply for some grants until next year anyway. I just want to make sure that if we're going to spend the money on this, that this thing's good for 5 years at least.
It's a good point,
I
man.
think Rob said we could apply this year. We just couldn't do a CBDG grant this year, but we can go after the handicapped.
Right.
Yep.
There, in answer to your question, Matthew, there's several grants we want to go after on the memorial. I mean, then probably the totality with the project with CDBG, but we can do ADA, we can do the historical, there's a couple I think that Rob was going to look into. I think he's already gone, but we was going to put our CDBG one off till next year and really try to get the water one for this year. But in the meantime, we want to press the others.
Okay.
So to really kick the project off, we need that inspection. But that's a good point. If it's only good for 60 days, we need to kind of key it with when we're
Exactly.
Rob's going to kick that off with grants.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yep, and I will verify if there's based on their experience with the grants and all that, and even the grant people will tell me.
Okay, that's good stuff.
So then, Kelly, you're going to kind of check and see, get with Susan or whoever, do we have funds we can do this without having to?
Yeah, unless you want to transfer from other funds, but we were just talking about that tonight. I need to get a little bit of a better grip on the revenues and revenue streams. So that's what Dev and I are going to be working on this week.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you get back to us, but I mean, you've got the authorization. I think
will.
you've got pretty much the feel here that everybody's okay with taking care. We just got to make sure you're not writing a hot check.
Yeah.
And if it is, make sure it's got your name on it. But anyway, so.
And if I may, Mayor, Commissioners, Commissioner Allen had asked about an update on projects. If I can do that now?
Absolutely.
I'll do that. Not in any particular order. The Union Loft Alley is open, so all I want to say is keep an eye on it, because you've already see with the moisture and it's going to snow again. Just keep an eye on that rock that they added. I think Jerry added that. Just keep an eye on that, because it's going to get. Say again?
Down on the south end?
Yes.
Okay.
On the south side. So it's good. It's open. So I will issue a certificate of substantial completion to get that signed. Kelly can sign that, and we'll get the last pay request from Rogers and Sons.
May I ask one question on that?
Yep.
Was replacing those bricks that they pulled up there not part of their bid?
It was not. Okay. So that was part of the deal. We looked at, I think probably before you came on, a change order to do that work was brought before the commission. It didn't pass. Then we looked at alternatives, concrete, brick. So just, it's costly to do that. So to expedite getting that back open, he sealed that joint as a change order that was previously approved. That's complete. So with the city's assistance, he got some gravel in there, so it's open. So now he's done. We'll just make sure he's cleaned up and issues his final pay request.
The only other thing I was going to ask is on the statements that come in, if they could be a little more itemized per se. I mean, we see on there, it may just say building inspection, and it's very, it's just a small description of what's going on. I would like to see a little bit more of an itemization.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to try to say that word again. I'd like to see it a little more itemized to where we know what we're paying for. That would help me out a bunch.
Yeah, and that's been around since the demo of the Eagle Block. So that's where that started.
Right.
So all the time that we've expended, whether it's, coming up, looking at it, while they were doing the below grade work, now they're getting ready to start the above grade work. Anything with that and the grants, helping with that, that's all where that goes.
Right. But I'm just saying,
we can
put
itemize.
Eagle Block on there, put Memorial Hall on there. That way we know exactly, rather than just building, inspection.
Because it's confusing.
Right. Anything else, Jason?
What
do you got?
Well, yeah, all kinds of stuff going on.
Let's update. Keep them coming. What else we got?
A quick update. I think you're probably all aware. Cooper was kind of held up with Evergy. We've got the right of way. We met with them recently, so they're working towards additional easements in private property. Even though we got 15-foot right of way, the guy wire on that the most southern pole actually goes into Marbury's property now, and then when they move it, it's going to go in there again. So there's a previous easement that just needs to be redone for that, as well as the north pole, which is the county property. So they're working on that, and we're clear on saying, as soon as you get what you need, let us know so we can keep the commissioners up to date. So as soon as we know that, you'll know. That way the crew, whatever you guys are planning to do out there, can be done.
You said the North Pole is the county's property?
The guy wire will encroach in county property, is what they said. I wasn't sure who. We didn't deal with that because we didn't need anything up there. But there's a guy wire, so that'll encroach further north.
I'll be done. Okay.
Or in a different place north, I guess. The other project, the Old Faithful manhole reroute, is out for bid. So we'll open bids. I think 10th of February is the plan.
It's open now.
It is. Yep, it's been advertised.
Been advertised.
Yep, and it's in all the plan rooms have it. And I'll start making calls. We've got one today. What's it called? TriStar Utilities out of Independence. They've already called about it. So next one, 17th and Eddy. I'll bring that to commission for approval to bid next commission meeting. So that'll be ready. Back to Hammond Sharkey's building. All that paperwork is with the state. The last piece we need is the mayor's signature on the amendment pages, which I think she got that. So that's the last piece of that. And as far as we can tell, talking to Carrie, they'll get that reviewed, and as soon as they're done, it's going to be a go. So, and we've already got essentially notice to proceed to Mid-Continental. So that's all good to go. And the last one, we just got signed the notice to proceed for January 31st on the sewer CIPP lining project that we bid back in October. So, pending any questions, that's my update.
A month ago, we were talking about the water projects. We're going to send that out to bids. I don't know if that's.
Yeah, so I've got, and we probably, with transition, we probably missed that, but I will send Kelly my electronic description of those projects so that you have that, so you don't have to recreate that, as well as the maps that I put in there. So you can issue or advertise for design proposals.
Mark was sick last week and I was pretty busy, so we'll get that RFQ out so we can get those qualifications for engineering. I think that's what the motion was. We looked at it tonight. So,
did we have that change on there that we talked about on the One Water project before it goes out for bid?
Refresh my memory.
Was there a change?
It was one that you and I talked about at the industrial park.
Oh, with the loop out there? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
We did? Now there's one probably that'll follow that we talked about. The initial will stay the same as it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we include that with this RFQ?
I don't think you want to. I think you want to let it take off, and then we'll come in with whatever we need to do to, have more capacity. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
You moving the splash pad out there or something? Got some secrets?
Well, we need a standpipe for a tower.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll follow it. I mean,
sure.
Let it take off, and then we can always come back and add to if we need more volume. Yeah.
Cool.
We, we're projecting the extension in the industrial park to be number one priority. Do we have a commitment on the actual project going forward? Where are we on that project?
The meat plant is going in.
They're waiting on us.
Yeah. They've been
waiting on us for 6 months.
For what?
Well, one was the road in front of KDOT. KDOT had that road, so we were waiting on permits, a temporary permit to get actually access to the land. And then infrastructure that was committed to before.
Do we have the permit to enter the land?
I think it's finally done.
Yeah, so the way that panned out, and we still, I guess we'll still have to do a permanent access permit, but to expedite, once that went full circle, I submitted a temporary access permit. So that's good for a year, and that was approved. And I think the city already put that in. There's a pipe and gravel, so that's in. So that developer can start accessing that.
Have we even reached out to Billy?
Not that
Mark
I
and
have
Kelly?
So that, yeah, so the key, and our understanding before was that particular water line project was the number one priority based on that development. So we were wanting to expedite that. So when you do that, you might, when you advertise those, I don't know if you want to stagger them or put them all together, however you want to do that, but that one needs to go quickly. And I know funding may be the glitch as well. I don't know how that was programmed, but I know that if that guy's ready to go and he doesn't have water, that's not cool. So
As I recall, and I'm not recalling things as well after the last 10 days, but we discussed this and we did stage it. We talked about staging and the importance of doing that first. And then I thought you said maybe 60 days, you were going to stage these out 60 days apart, but it's also dependent upon funding. But we knew that we could do the South Loop, and it's not only for this additional facility that's going in. There's also significant water needs to be addressed there. That was brought up at the meeting. Bill Lemke, there was conversation on water flow and pressure and such.
Sure.
Yeah, and one of the things we can do, we can go ahead and pre-fund part of our match in a CDBG project.
I know that Pete had asked a question about whether or not it was going to be any savings to us to have two of those water projects done at the same time by the same contractor.
it could, I mean, they're fairly good sized projects by themselves. So it depends. It'll bring you if you do them all or two or three together, you'll get maybe a bigger contractor.
I remember we talked about that
from
before, and the
further
main thing is
away.
we just gotta have funds to bid it.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
You gave estimates last meeting, right?
Yeah, so you've seen the
Or the worksheet.
estimates before.
Is there only one boring on that, on those three projects? There's only one boring on 6th Street. Is that right?
Yes. Well, I'm trying to think. We'll do some boring down at the industrial park to not disturb Hickory, but yeah, the big boring would be 6th Street across the highway
We have to bore under the tracks as well.
and the tracks. Yeah.
Okay, any other updates?
That's all I've got.
Is that it?
That's it.
Man. Okay, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the city manager's comments.
Okay, we already went through the water line project, so we'll get that RFQ up so you guys can approve that, and we'll tweak that if we need to, but want to get that out as soon as we can. Now, it's my understanding, do we want to go, I was thinking about bundling those three together and put them out as one project, try to get, I was also going to call William Carr to see if there's any debt forgiveness with the SRF. So, well, if we can put it together as a project, that's probably going to be our best bet, and then get CDBG money on a match. So we can actually get both CDBG and if there's debt forgiveness out there right now. So we want to shoot for both.
Okay.
So, okay. So anyway, we'll get that up and then we'll bring that to the next meeting. I did talk to Bill Lemke, and he's going to go ahead and get his water meters ordered for this year so they can go ahead and start getting those changed out. He's a little bit behind from last year, and they want to try to catch up. We looked at the budget, and he does have money to go ahead and get the amount that he had from last year and this year's quota. So he's going to do that. Also talked to him about getting some of the 2-inch water lines replaced, and so we may do some open trenching and try to get that in the alleys and try to get so it's not such a drain on our crew when those bust or when they get more volume of water back to some of our residents and our businesses. So we're working on that. We did get the second bid in for the asphalt emulsion tanks. I'll talk to Tom and see if that's what he and Jerry want to do, if it's the kind of power source they want to use. One came in with a Honda motor on it, and I think he was thinking 3-phase. So I'm going to go back. I guess I'm going to have to set specs for the companies and give them a little bit more guidance on an RFP, request for proposal, that's apples to apples on that. So they both came in. I think we're looking around 60,000. So we'll probably take that money out of the sales tax street fund. So just understand that's where we'll take that. Did get an email. That's kind of cool. It was for the Hibbert House. Is that right? Yeah. On that sales tax. Here it is. It says, we're pleased to inform you that you at the Thomas L. and Anna B. Hibbert House was listed in the National Registry of Historic Places in December 23rd, 2021. The National Registry is the county's official list of historical significant properties. That's just kind of cool. And Kansas can be proud to have a large and growing representation of these tangible links to our past. And I thought that's pretty cool. So just wanted to share that with you.
That's awesome.
It is. It is. Quick question. We had, and this is a little bit before my time, but Janet Guilfoyle had asked about K and G striping. They're wanting to know when they'd get paid. So that's something, I guess there's $6,700 outstanding. They gave a credit back on what they didn't do on national, but they charged $6,000 to go out there and they had to survey the line that well, I guess when they bid it, it wasn't a center line that they could follow when they got done on the was it a mill and overlay?
No, just a striping.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean on the what was the surface?
Yeah. So
right.
She asked if the commission could give some guidance on that.
So what is the final bill on that?
Well, the final bill I came up with is $6,717
That's for both lines?
92 cents. Yeah, they gave a $6,000 credit back, and then they charged us. I'm sorry.
There's two $6,000 numbers and then a credit of 6,000 or something.
I brought it. Okay.
I couldn't figure out the bill.
Let me give you a complete report. The line that they did do was $6,932. Okay, and then they gave the city back a credit of for what they did not do of $6,200 and $6,214.08 was a credit. So, and then they charged another $6,000 for the surveying. The total that I came up with was, let me get that here, was the 6932 plus 6,000, which minus 6214.08 came to 6717.92.
That's the final bill.
Yeah, 6717.92.
First of all, according to the connecting link agreement, we were not responsible for striping from the bypass going east.
Right.
That's the state's responsibility, not the city's. So we're spending money that we shouldn't be spending. Secondly, I know there's work going west from the bypass going up to State Street. That was not done. So I'm really confused as to what was what was proposed, what was, you know, where, it just looks to me like a mess from the get-go, of us knowing what we were going to get with the money we were going to spend. Let me ask you, is that reimbursable from the state? It wasn't our responsibility.
I don't know. Do you want Jason or I to check into that, or did you run that project, Jason?
Yeah, this was all kind of just thrown at us.
So to clarify, no, we did not run that project. Our involvement was with National Avenue overlay, Millen overlay. We were going to have that center line restriped as part of that, which is, I think, part of your deduction, because they didn't do that after all. So if you have access to, I guess your previous public works director basically figured the whole thing out, how much he wanted, where it was going to be done, got quotes. So I don't know if you've got his file. That might shed light on what was supposed to be done versus what was done. And I'd be happy to talk to the KDOT about
So was this brought before the
reimbursables.
commission?
No, I don't believe it was.
I think it was way a while back.
Yeah, I think we
Wait,
actually.
no, I meant
looked
the
at-
No, I'm saying to do the job.
Do the job. Was it?
No,
It was never brought to us to do the job.
And it was
I wasn't here, but I don't remember watching it on it.
And it was over
No.
$10,000.
I do recall very vividly it did not ever come before the commission. And the reason I know that is because I got a phone call and said, hey, there's a bunch of carts running up and down over here at Sherwin-Williams, and they're unloading, and they were flying up and down Wall Street, and I thought something was coming to an end. I mean, they were riding all over the place, and I thought, man, this must be a state thing because it hasn't come before us.
Diane, could you check and see on that? Because if it was over $10,000, I don't know how it got approved without coming to the commission.
It's never been approved.
I meant to do the job. If it was over $10,000, if it's never been approved, why are they asking for money?
Well, because they did the work. I think
How did they do the
the
work?
public
without-
works director secured that contract.
Even though it was over $10,000?
And yeah, I don't know what the original contract probably wasn't.
No, the original.
So they added, some
But still, yeah, that
under
was
the
without.
threshold probably.
Yeah, that would have been, even if it was $6,000, that's way over the spending limit of the public works director.
Yeah.
Or maybe they tied two $6,000 projects together and said, well, each one's under 10,000.
No,
I don't know.
no.
But there's two
No,
$6,000 projects on there.
No, there's just the one for $69,932.
I guess I'm confused. So there's one for $6,900, and they give us a $6,000 credit, but we still owe $6,000.
Now, okay, so here's what happened. I tried to follow this. 6932 was the bill. They gave us a credit for 621408, and now they want a $6,000 extra for setting the string line for putting
So
the
my
lines
thing
down.
is, why'd they give us a credit? Why didn't they say you don't have a credit because we set the string?
Because they didn't do the one on National.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to do National and Wall. The way I
So which one
understand
did
it.
they do the survey on?
Wall Street, evidently.
Yes.
But those lines were there. That's the part I don't understand. If they didn't stripe National, National's the one with the overlay, and that's why there would be no center line. Wall Street's lines have been there. We just striped it ourselves.
So we paid $6,000. If it was going to go over the $10,000, tell me how this works. Should there have been a change order saying now it's going to go above the 10,000 threshold?
I
got to
believe
go
you're
get a
right.
Change order.
Here's what I think we need to do. I think we need to let, now that Kelly's here, I think we need to dig deeper into this, find out exactly what happened, and you can report back to us. If we need to have a special meeting to discuss it, we can do that as well, Kelly. But I think there's so much confusion at this point as to how, number one, this came to fruition, and number two, it's confusing. We're giving you credits, we're giving you a bill.
Because it wasn't just the national part that didn't get done. There was a second part that didn't get done either.
Yeah, it says here that the 6,000 was for layout on National and Wall Street avenues. The credit itself is for credit for work not completed at National Avenue.
And what about
Well, yeah, and there's another section on Wall Street that they were supposed to restripe,
But they didn't.
which was from the bypass going north to State, and that wasn't done either. So,
Okay.
So
And
there should be a credit
Can you
for that.
repeat that, and I'll try to see if I can do some following up.
He's talking about from the overpass.
Yeah.
From that up to State Street.
Okay.
That'd be headed west. But what they did do was from the bypass up to, where did they stop on that, Pete?
State Street, I believe.
No, I'm talking about
East.
east.
Oh, you know those streets up there. What's it? Where'd they stop?
I don't remember where they stopped. Was it top of the hill? I mean,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you talking convenience store? What are you talking? Give me some landmarks, Pete.
Up near Metcalf's place?
Yeah. Okay, so if that's it, then they went from the bypass. I'd like to know exactly where they think they went also from the bypass to the convenience store, I think is what they're talking about. Which would be, what street is that? Caldwell?
Yeah.
Caldwell. Yeah. So that being said, and I'd also like to ask the question, Kelly, how do they think they did a layout from the overpass to Caldwell when it already had stripes on it previously? I mean, I don't know how what their layout charge is. I could see it when, like Jason's talking about on fresh asphalt.
Well, it sounds like the layout charge wasn't on there when they first quoted it.
It wasn't.
So it sounds like it's something they added after they had to give us a rebate.
But if there's already stripes there, I'm not seeing the layout unless they didn't want to do it like that because they were kind of wompy to start with.
So when the total bill came to us before the credit, because I think it was sent to us before there was a credit on there.
It was.
What was that bill?
That would have been the 6932.
So not until after they gave the credit is when they said they charged for the surveying?
No, there was two parts to that bill when it came, and it was like $12,000, and
I believe that's true.
That's when I had Tom call them up and question the bill, because remember, this was initiated when Jesse was here.
Right.
And there was some work had been done on Wall Street. Okay.
I think we do, because my biggest thing was $12,000. Once again, why did it not go to the commission?
Well, that's true.
It wasn't.
It wasn't handled properly. Anyway.
There's no malicious intent here.
No.
This is.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There's more moving parts to the pieces here, and so I'm only going by what Jesse said and what I can recall.
No, and I'm not
Jesse
saying
said there was no company.
I'm just saying these companies should know. I don't know who signed off on the extra $6,000. What I'm saying.
Here's what I guess probably bothers all of us the most is we never even talked about striping. Never even had a conversation at the commission about we need to get this striped or anything like that. The last fall, I recall it was cold outside, and I recall Public Works going out and doing our own striping. We ran our handheld striper from about the railroad tracks to where you're talking about. So we just striped that, and then we went out and striped out behind the alignment shop at that same time because I was giving them a little bit of fits because it was cold temperatures, and I didn't understand why we were heating the asphalt, because we were actually taking weed burners and heating the asphalt or something like that in order to get it prepped where it would accept paint.
And I mean, I just want to reiterate, Mark, I'm not saying any current staff did anything malicious. I'm just more saying this company, it seems a little weird how they're billing us. So
Right. Okay, I think you got that handled,
Yeah,
right, Kelly?
I'll reach out to him, Josh, and we'll try to bear down on it and see what they can get some more clarity to us. But I'm kind of with you. We'll try to shake the tree a bit and get some questions answered. Okay, got a couple more things. After the double homicide, I talked to Travis. Isn't here; he's under the weather. But one of the things we discussed is that information needs to get out on an emergency like that within the first hour or two. And we kind of set a protocol to use our code red system that goes out of dispatch so that people will know. We also talked about even if there is still a suspect at large, we still want to let people know. I know that's not ideal. We want to let people know. Hopefully that never happens. But they need to know within the first hour or two of what's going on that could be hurtful to them to stay in their house and let the police do their job. So it can just be very short. What had happened, they had allowed Kansas KBI to do that, and it was like 6 or 8 hours after the initial incident.
It was actually the next day at about 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, it was a good 17 hours.
So, okay. So, but that's one of the things that he and I talked about. He'd reached out to some other departments and their captains and chiefs said and I'd shared with him that was my protocol as well.
Yeah. All we were looking for was a general statement saying suspect on the loose.
Yeah.
Be careful.
And so we're, once again, it's a learning lesson. We'll do better.
We understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Kelly, are they going to look at, will there be like a public information officer that's part of the Fort Scott Police Department that even if KBI does take over and say we're going to handle all this stuff, that we know that there's someone there
Come
that
on,
has
I'll do
our
it.
interest and
Yeah.
is watching out for our interest, because that's what happened last time. Was
Yeah.
KBI said we've got this,
Right.
and we waited and waited, and they never released anything.
Right.
And they do, but also it's our responsibility, and that's why we kind of moved Bill up to communication and all that.
Yeah, so I've been in contact with the League of Municipalities. There actually is a state association of PIOs through the league. They have quarterly meetings in addition to annual conferences. So on February 22nd, I'll be going out to Iola for a training and meeting with CAPIO, which is the acronym. And then also today, I've talked to the lead PIO up in Overland Park, and they highly recommend, there's an FBI training curricula called Leadership Executive something or another. It's called LEAD, LEED is the acronym. Sorry, I'm butchering the name here. But there's an FBI lead PIO course in Kansas City in May that I've asked Chief for permission to register for. And from what I'm told, that's the class that we want to go to.
Yeah, I will say, like, the PIO, that's open to commissioners and everyone to go to. So, I mean, the league has a lot of good conferences and things like that that are open to all of us to go to. So.
Yeah, and like I said, and actually I need to digress. There's a basic PIO course for law enforcement communication that's supposed to be, I'm told, in Wichita in March, which is like a basic PIO course, and then hoping to follow up with that with the advanced FBI course in May. So that's my plan.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah. One last thing, there was a change order, it would be the third change order for the Clarifier at the water treatment facility. And what that'll be, the engineer signed off on it, and I'm pretty certain I feel comfortable signing off on it. They just want to extend their days. They had a lot of weather days, and they had a valid reason. They notice to proceed didn't come out as timely as I think the city had expected it to, so they're just asking that it be moved for, it'd be the 22 days into December. So.
Yeah, I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay.
I mean, at least it isn't for me. Do you have a problem with that, Pete? You're looking weird at me. Okay.
Yeah, usually you do that on the back end. That's pretty standard, isn't it, Pete? So.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I have.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. That was good information. Okay, so up next we have Brad Mackin, our Human Resource Director, has a bridge removal update for us. And what he's going to be talking about is the bridge that we had removed out of the Marmaton River down there. And just for the people at home, that Brad and the guys at Public Works have been working really hard on this, and we're going to get some results, it sounds like. Oh, thanks, Brad. Feel like that was on purpose.
Okay, so just to clarify, Jerry and a few of the guys, they were very instrumental in this. They took it on their own after they got to go to get down there and get a good plan of how to remove this bridge, not only in a timely fashion, but safely and without disturbing much land. And they did a awesome job in doing this. Jerry Morgan, Greg Goss, Art Grisby, and Tyler Finley were the guys that were in charge of this. As you can tell, we did a really, really good job of saving some money for the city of Fort Scott. Just to go through this briefly, when we bid it, it came at a $9,000 low bid. The scrap was $6,100 and some change. So the bid total would have been 15,110, or at least 9,000, what we would have lost. So we wouldn't have got to count any of the scrap. City of Fort Scott, what our costs were, and I kind of padded the numbers a little bit, the labor cost. 6 days to remove. We do have a little bit of more time to fancy up the ground a little bit because we want to leave it as good as we can. But there were some partial days in there also because of weather or somebody leaving, whatever. So I kind of padded it, but I still said 6 days to remove. $4,416 of labor costs. Material costs, which for the welders and also fuel, $625. So $5,041 was the cost to remove. So if you add, or you take the 9,000 low bid minus what we used to remove it, the 5,041 came up to $3,959. If you add that with the scrap total that we did get out of this metal, and we did prep some of it, prep metal, cutting it to a right size, took it out to the crusher, and got a price per ton for that. We did some of that, plus we took some just regular scrap. It was $10,069.60 savings for the city of Fort Scott. So I feel this is a win, in my opinion. We did use, like I said, our own people, our own equipment. It was a great learning experience for our guys. And I will say both managers that went out there told Mark and I that it was a team building, because if you know where that bridge was at, it was kind of sticky out there. I mean, it was pretty far down in the river. So these guys did a great job. Again, those four should be commended for what they did. Also, I just wanted to clarify, during that time while they were there, the rest of the crew was doing alleys and just maintenance around town that needed to be done also. So again, it was a great project for the guys to get better with, and I feel it was a success.
Oh, I think you're exactly right, Brad. I remember I pushed for that right in the beginning, that I thought we needed to go out there as Public Works and take care of this. I think, didn't I say that? Anyway, why are you guys smiling at each other? Because I really believe that happened. Was that in my own head? I heard that. But anyway, so yeah, you guys did a great job. And are you sure all the scrap's in yet? Because I had talked to him today, and
there's a little bit of,
I think there's still
not prepped. I don't think it's prepped. It's just a little scratch.
But I think there's still money to be added to this.
There might be a little bit, but I want to get you some numbers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, but I think it's going to look even better when we get done, and maybe it'll help heal the lake fund. We can put it over into that after Tim takes it.
Sure, that's another great idea, Kevin.
See, I have a lot of good ideas if you just listen, Tim.
Yeah.
I am so glad to hear the willingness to move those funds. I'm beside myself.
No, I will say this is, 13 months ago when it started, we talked about we need to do everything in-house. And overdoing it a little bit, you're like, we can't do everything in-house. So I think this is a huge step, recognizing what we can do in-house and what we can't do in-house and saving money. So I think that's the first step to, I
think it's going to bleed over into, like Pete's always talked about, working on our own sewers, working on our water lines. It's gonna continue, like you said, when you've hired these employees now that can do this. This is great. So this is the first step in the right direction, I believe.
Oh, I totally agree. With the team building plus the confidence that it gives these guys to know they can do that. I mean, it wasn't an easy job. I don't know how many of you know what was going on. It was not an easy job at all, and those guys went out there in the cold and took care of it. And the best part about it, I guess, was the Jerry and Tom worked together to come up with a plan and fulfilled it. So that just shows we've got a good management team out there working together, and the crew's really, really getting good out there. So
That's awesome. Thank you for the update, Brad. That's good stuff.
All right, thank you.
Up next, commissioner reports and comments. Tim?
Yes, thank you. Just a few things here I've got written down. I really appreciate Jason and Kelly and Mark and Bill over there. We did do a nice walk through Memorial Hall, top to bottom, back on January 6th. It looks like some pretty good bones. I'll be curious to see what the environmental study comes back on it. And again, the stairs. It's an amazing building. I didn't even know until a while back as a veteran that Alvin York actually kind of gave a speech there at Memorial Hall years ago. And the rumor has it is that they had the time wrong, and he had to walk from the train station to the hall because they didn't pick him up. Got Congressional Medal of Honor winner. So way to go, Fort Scott.
Yeah.
But also, we already kind of covered it this evening. I would like to look at revising some of the city contracts verbiage to eliminate confusion, removing words like should, starting to press a little harder with words like shall, clarifying some of the technical pieces of it, like with the demoing on the houses. It's got to be kind of one or the other, not kind of and or when you're talking about footings, but then you're telling somebody they can fill in a basement with dirt.
Hey, Tim, can I touch on that real quick? One of the things when we're talking about that, I'd like to add in also, and I spoke a little bit with city staff about it, is when we're talking about that, to have utilities unhooked.
Yeah,
That's one of the things.
Evergy and Kansas Gas is no brainer, but I do agree that as far as water goes and the sewer line, that I mean I don't know, first of all, how many of the contractors will know where to find the sewer line at. But I think they do need to be preserved and properly marked so that if we are going to find somebody that wants to come in and actually build something on there, that they're not rooting around, or maybe we didn't do it properly and the lines are damaged. So, yeah, I agree with you completely. We can't really, I don't think, rely on the contractor necessarily to find the sewer line that's out there in some cases. But
Yeah, when you're talking about demolition contractors, that's exactly what they are. They're not plumbers.
Yeah.
And, Pete and I discussed it, and it needs to be, if you're going to kill all the infiltration, it needs to be capped and plugged at the main. You need to dig down to the main, right where it comes out, stub it out, and cap it there. That way the new home can have a brand new line and what have you. But that's all stuff we can discuss. I just wanted to add that.
Yep. I wanted to touch again on pedestrian crossing signs on National Avenue. Whatever it takes, I think we agreed at the last meeting. I'd like to see one at First and Second Street at least. I mean, Third Street's got a four-way stop there for people to stop. And I'm telling you, I've come close to getting run over, and I've had people that have told me, it's great, there's no stop signs, but the crosswalks are faded, and you can hardly see them. I mean, I know that I think the GNAT team did a great job of repainting them, but I don't know if that paint was right or not, because they're already faded again. And usually you've got some signs up on the poles there to alert people. So you could let us know on that. That would be great. And then I wanted to thank Bill. Bill and I had an opportunity after the land sale, the tax sale, to drive around Fort Scott and look at some of the properties to kind of look at in their mind. And this is with Kelly's approval of what are the next ones on the list that need to be a priority. I mean, I would agree the ones that are part of the land bank that we can do something with should definitely be on that list. Matter of fact, one of those at least was one of the drug houses that they identified, but to build that list out, and so I'm going to kind of go through that again. I've got some spare time. I'll drive around, look at that, and then I'll bounce it off of Bill and Kelly to share with the commission as well.
Real quick on that, would you? I reached out to the county today to get which ones would be on the next tax sale list.
Yeah,
and I don't know, maybe you and I could go look at those, because I think those would be the next ones to start with.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, there's only 3 on this current list. But I mean, there's still a huge concern where you've got 14 properties that are known drug flop houses, and you go buy these houses, and in a lot of cases there's little kids' toys outside the house next door and stuff like that. And we want to make sure we're keeping our community safe. And then the last thing was, I kind of talked about it a little bit with Jackson Tuff the other day. I was anxious or very happy to hear what Jody said tonight. Maybe I can visit with her tomorrow night about making sure that we do something with that T-Mobile grant down there by the fort. I'd hate for us to lose that opportunity, and maybe there's something we can do with her with her grant money combined to make that happen. That's all I got.
Thank you, Tim. Josh?
I just got a few things. One, was asked the after prom party, and we have given money to them before, out of the special alcohol and drug fund. It can only be used for a few certain things. And so I was going to ask if we could give $2,000 out of that to go to the after prom party. Basically, I mean, what that is, if any of you had kids, I mean, that's been going on, I don't know for how long, but it really, there's, most of the kids go to that thing and it keeps them from going to parties, getting, drinking and all that other stuff. So I want to make a motion to give $2,000 out of that fund. And I believe we have 42,000 in there. I know last year we gave 5,000 to CASA and they asked for 10,000 more. We gave them 5,000. So there's money left over. And so I just want to make a motion to give $2,000 out of that fund to the after prom party for the kids. So,
is there a second or discussion?
I will second that motion.
I think it's great. I mean, we've all as parents helped navigate that party, and it is a good way to keep kids off the streets from doing silly stuff, or at least one night anyway.
Yeah, the other thing I had.
Matthew
sorry.
Wells,
Yes.
Tim Van Hooky,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
We talked about the land bank money. The other thing is, I would like to go ahead and I don't know how to get started, but to sell some more property at the lake. I would like to look at second tier lots. I just kind of looked at what we own, and there's some out there just south of the Mile Road on the west side. It'd be the east side of the road. It'd be about just north of where Mr. Stewart lives, Dave Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
But just right, so it'd be on. I call it West Side Lake Road. I don't know what that is. Need Nancy to tell me.
195th.
That's east side, isn't it? 205th? Or 195th. Yeah, anyways, it's down there just south of the Mile Road, but I'd like to, whatever the steps is, to sell 2 or 3 more lots, but they'd be second tier lots, wouldn't be on the lake. So I don't know if the commission's up for that.
I would only just have one question, Josh, is do we know, have all of the lots out there now closed?
I think there's
That's
one.
a great question.
If I remember right, there's one waiting. The survey just got done, the resurveying, and since our county doesn't do e-titles, it had to get sent off to Lynn County.
It'll probably a month or so out.
But right now, it's just waiting on the
paperwork.
Paperwork.
So 3 out of the 4 have closed, and we're just waiting on
No,
one. 'Cause
2.
Two.
And the other 2's the one.
One person.
So, but I don't know. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on selling more lake property.
Well, I think that's something we need to discuss. I mean, and if we do consider selling it, at what method we sell it.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that the city lists it or whatever, and we just give a broker's fee to any licensed broker that sells it for us, like a finder's fee of 3%, because it was kind of a show last time.
Yeah, it was a bit of one.
But I don't know. I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on selling more property?
Anything we can do to get our streets fixed.
Easy. No, I mean, Josh brings up a good point, and I think it's one of those type of questions, Josh, that is good for a 2-week thought process for everybody.
Right. Well, I mean, I asked 2 weeks ago. So.
Well, I mean, what is the process? I mean, who determines which lots?
Well, that's what I'm asking to start the process too.
Here's how we did it last time, Tim. We had a couple of gazebos that were not being used. The city of Fort Scott owned it. They never got utilized, and I just brought up the idea with the lake committee that we take those 2 properties and split them in half and sell 4 lots on each one. Yeah. So that's where we came for the first one. And then, as Josh and I and everyone's talking, we own so much property out there that would be
the city
of Fort Scott. Yeah, owns so much property out there that it would be. Yeah, I should specify that. That it would be advantageous for us for building.
And so that's all I'm asking. I don't really care what we sell. I just think we have enough, and so whatever process that is to designate which ones to sell. I've just talked to a few realtors, and we know what lakefront, and I would just kind of like to see what second tier lots sell for.
Yeah. Are you talking about selling them in 1 acre pieces, or 3 acres, or 2 acres, or?
I'm
Open
up
for options.
anything. I mean, I think get advice from people. I mean, the last ones were, what were the last ones?
Oh, the last ones were waterfront properties, and they
Right.
were 105 feet by whatever depth they would have came up to.
But they can be whatever size you want.
No,
because
absolutely.
there's-
They could, but we just the typical width of a lake lot right now is about 95 to 100 feet, and that's we put a little extra on it. But Tim, maybe it's one of those deals where you just, if everybody wants to take a drive out by and see what you guys think is.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see what's available, and also because it is city property, and
Right.
I'd like to to have some input, or at least have something presented to say, hey, we think these would be the next best ones to sell, rather than just someone else picking.
So what are your suggestions on how do we decide what's the next ones to sell?
Can we get like a layout of what the city
Yeah.
land?
Okay, so
to
here's
each one of us.
So this is I think is a good thought. I don't know why we don't have a marker board, something hard copy, because we can get them from the county. If we could work for the county, and I want to go ahead and appoint you to do this, if you would, work with the county and get a hardback model, kind of like these pictures are, something that could be on our wall. The lake is such a big asset to the community that we could have to where we could use it as a marker board and look at what and show us, specify what is city property by a certain color on that map.
Oh, I can see what's city property. If there's an app called Base Map.
Yeah, or you can go to the county website and pull up GIS under, and that's what I did basically.
Well, I don't have all that fancy stuff, so I need
You
some
don't have
crayons
you don't have a
and
phone?
something on the wall. So, I mean, I probably
Yeah,
got
so,
it.
No, that's why I asked, is just to put it in people's mind. And we sold the other ones a long time ago, and it just seems like I just want to know the next step of possibly doing it. So
What are the utilities like? Are we gonna?
We sold
Are we
the-
gonna have to put sewers and water lines?
we sold the
No.
last ones with nothing. I mean,
Well, the sewer and water lines were already there, right?
Yeah, but on the other side,
Yeah, on the other side.
on the other side, that's all septic systems.
so we'd have to sell 1 acre then.
So there's
Yeah.
gonna be
They'd
septic
have to
systems
be-
over there.
Yeah, if you're gonna sell off that other side, it can be. I mean, you could discuss hooking sewer into it.
Right.
You could bring one sewer line across that pavement or board or whatever, and then they could actually have sewer hookups, or you could sell them off as 1 acre lots where they put a septic system with a 1,000-gallon tank and 400 feet of line. Now that's going to be tough out in there. There's a little bit of rock, but there's
people on the other side.
absolutely.
So there's a bunch of them out there. So that's all. I don't know the next step of whether you can. I think the map would be a good thing, and then we can.
I'd like that. I could probably find that thing too if I needed to. That
Well,
GIS
we,
thing.
we
but
can get one and put it on a hardback so we.
That's what I think would be good.
It can be kind of nice.
Right.
If we want to, we can throw it out in the lobby.
There you go.
A month ago, I asked about prices of docks, and I don't think they've came back. So I asked Diane to pull up the last ones we bought in 2014. They were roughly 11,000 each installed. So I imagine they went up some, but I would like to put a few more docks out there. One by the spillway down by Scortino, probably 2 over there, and then one at the old spot on the curve on the west side for the people that. And then I don't know, and inspect the other ones and see what they're like. I think the one on the east side, on the very south, is it in very good shape?
No, you talking about the loading ramp down there?
Down by Graham's, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. And so I would just look, at that, and then using some of the lake fund money to purchase those docks.
We could do that. Now, Doug Gunn was mentioning something. Is there regulations out there, places we can't put dogs, or?
No,
not that I know of.
No, and these are the locations he's mentioned so far are all locations that's had docks before.
Yeah, they just
went
deteriorated.
away.
We just said and took them away. So.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and you can, you can put a dock anywhere you want out there, as far as I know. But these are all minimum docks, and we did at the last meeting. I think we asked Doug to come up with some prices.
I think it was 2 meetings ago.
2 meetings ago, I had that on my paperwork as well. We need to have a report. I mean, we need to find out what kind of docks, what size, what our options are, handicap accessible.
I think we just have to stay away from the hatchery.
Right? Yeah, you don't. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't want to dock down there.
No.
And where is that? Like 2nd of February? Is that the next Lake Advisory Board?
Like March 26th now.
Yeah, they moved it way down.
They moved it way down?
Mhm.
Okay. Do you know if there's still working on that, at least looking at that return on investment that we requested at the meeting and voted and passed?
You know, I don't know if they are. I'm
Because I
sure
think, isn't their chairman?
she's leaving.
She's leaving?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to help any way I can, putting
Right.
that together and looking at it.
I
Sure.
don't know, was that something
That's-
Doug was doing with them? Is that right? If I remember right?
He was supposed to be working with them to figure it all out. Which I don't know if you're going to be able to get a return on investment on a dock.
No, not on a
that's-
dock. Not on a
talking
dock.
about
I'm
the
just
lots
talking
for the
overall
RVs.
the project out
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Again, I would still like to actually look at the possibility of leasing the land and seeing if there was a private investor that wanted to put a campground in and let him do all the expenses, maintenance, collecting the money, if it's a profitable idea. But that's something I would encourage him to entertain as well.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. I also hate to, I'm always, this is me personally, I'm always one of those kind of guys that thinks we can do this. Kind of like I was talking about with the bridge thing. I feel like I'd hate to give that up in another sense for fear of, giving up something that we might be able to. And again, you'd have to do a study on return on investment or whatever. But I think the numbers that we got were, are you still here? Anyway, I think the numbers we got were way more than what we wanted. And I think we can, in talking, I think we can put together a way smaller project.
Right.
And with gravel.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know it might not be profitable. I mean, it's an amenity, just like golf course, swimming pool, buck run.
Sure.
I mean, hopefully it'll bring more economic impact.
Well,
But I'd still love to see that. I mean, everything should be data driven.
You just can't have, like, to Tim's point, you can't have too many losing things in this bucket because, we got a swimming pool that loses, I think, approximately $80,000 a year. A lot of citizens use
And I
it.
think it helped depends whether you put 5 RVs or 20 out there because if you think
Right.
money, then
Yeah, and I think that's why it's good to explore all avenues of investment for it.
Right.
Like I said, if it's a beautiful lake, granted it's small, it's 360 acres, but if there is somebody, I mean, do we look at potentially saying, hey, here's some land here, we'll lease it to you, this is what we'd like to see go into it.
Sure. And I just have one last thing I've brought up a couple times before. Want to look at the airport leasing land to people wanting to build hangars. I've been reached out by a couple people wanting to build a hangar out there.
Has that been platted, Josh?
I don't think so.
hangars?
No.
Okay, that's really a step we probably ought to look at is getting it platted for that, if you guys
Right.
are agreeable.
The other thing is I think there's a state regulation on what we can charge and all that.
Yeah.
And so,
And you'll set that up through Bob Farmer, so.
the first step's getting it going, whatever that is. But I know we've been reached out to by some people.
Yeah, I've been reached out to by several individuals as well. We've talked about it at several meetings, and I don't know, when you're talking about platinum, you're talking about.
Well, it's the same thing as you lay out your lake. I mean, you plot it for lots.
Right, lot sizes.
Lease for hangars, and so they can install hangars on them.
Yeah, we would need that brought back to us because I don't know how big a hangar you need for an airplane, but you'd want to make sure it had big enough for airplane, vehicle.
I mean, I don't know if you can plat them afterwards because I know a lot of them
Yes,
are
yes,
done
you
that
can.
afterwards. You just so much a square foot of ground.
And then what you try to do is you try to keep that consistency within, tangibility for what you've already got out there.
Or at least in this general section.
Now, do you have the ones that already have hangars on lease contracts?
Two.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So we can kind of pattern off of that
Sure.
a little bit. Okay.
I think that's it. The other thing is we saw the meet and greet Thursday. Is that right? And so, just anybody that wants to come, I think it's good. Just meet Kelly, new commissioners, or just talk to any of the commissioners. So 5:30 at the Ellis. Yeah.
That's this Thursday. Okay.
I think that's it.
Okay, Commissioner Pete. Nothing.
Well, I've got
okay.
a couple of things. One, when we were talking about demolition of the houses and the sewers and disconnect the sewers, we have in our 2019 standards and specifications, the requirement that any abandoned sewer or service tap must be completely removed from the sewer main, and the main must be repaired. So we have a huge I&I problem, and it's been well known that approximately 50% of that I&I comes from these old lines, and the requirement in the standards and specifications says that if somebody's going to build a new house there, they have to put a new sewer in anyhow. That's what it says, and it's right there. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to do that. I think that's a city function that the city should go down there and disconnect that sewer because we've got these things all over town now, all over town where we have sewers that are leaking. And I've seen over on Andrick Street, I've stood there and watched thousands of gallons flow out of one sewer service line that's exposed there right now. And when we multiply that by 1,000 houses, it gets humongous, and it is. So that's something that here it is right there in the standard specs. We need to enforce it.
That may be something we want to put in our demolition specs.
Well,
absolutely. And Pete, I feel you. And when we discuss this, would it, instead of when you talk about fixing the tap, you're talking about closing the tap in. You're talking, would the city of Fort Scott then be responsible for cutting the sewer here and here and putting a new piece in, or are you
whatever it takes to fix?
So if it's a good tap, would it be advantageous to us if it's going to be a building lot sometime to stub it out, say 4 feet, and cap it, locate it, and then we're done. And that way we don't have, the homeowner doesn't have to suffer the tap fee. But if it's a bad tap, we can tell that by the camera.
We just need to make sure we get the lateral line disconnected.
Right.
So it's not contributing water.
And that's why I say the further the contractor, the demolition contractor, has to stay away from plumbing and utilities. That's when I visited with Diane a couple weeks ago, these utilities were still hooked up on these homes that we bid out. There was electricity, there's gas, there's still gas to some of them. And we got to get better at that because we turn a demolition contractor loose and something would go awry, then there's going to be fingers pointed at each other. So
yeah, and that's what I meant about we need to put it in our specs that whoever we do, I mean, if they're waiting on the gas company, they need to make sure the gas is disconnected and off the property according to the gas company of where they want it at. Then also electric needs to come down, and then if we're going to plug the water in the sewer, then that needs to be in there. They need to wait on us, notify us, and have us come out and do that.
Yeah, that needs to be, the city of Fort Scott needs to have that done before these projects go to bid.
Yes.
That needs all utilities unhooked and ready to go, then go to bid. That way there's no hidden problems.
So what we can do is,
but if we've got them on the condemnation list and we've said go ahead and go to demolition at that point in time, then we have to, once the winning bidder, I mean, I think you can do it before the winning bidder. Once we've said it hit the condemnation list.
I think once it's condemned, then.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about that, Bill?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor makes a really good point. We had homes that went out for bid for demolition and didn't realize we still had not active utilities, but we had gas meters, water meters. One house we had an electrical line still up, so we had to go back and call Evergy and Kansas Gas. Our city water department did a really good job. They got those meters out 24-hour turnaround. But I think the mayor's point is well taken. If you're going out to do work, you shouldn't have to wait because that counts against the time for his permit.
Right.
So that's on me. We'll take care of that in the future. As soon as they go out for bid, we'll make sure all the meters and everything's disconnected and removed so that whoever wins the bid doesn't have to sit around and wait. Because I'll tell you right now, Kansas Gas has an extremely slow turnaround time. Like you'd be lucky to get them out here within 30 days to take one of their meters out. So
yeah, and it's not even really the meter, just so everybody understands it, is when that pipe's sticking up and it's got that round thing on it, that's a regulator, and that means that gas is still live, it's just plugged, and there's no meter. So you hit that, and it's $1,000. I know the figure. So anyway, it's a bad deal.
So we'll take care of that in the future. That was on us.
Yeah. No, I think this is all, again, a learning curve that we haven't done in the past, and we can sharpen our pencil and not have these questions. And with other contractors.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Now, to what Diane was saying, once y'all condemn the home and all that, there's not supposed to be anybody living in that house at that point, is there?
That's correct. That's correct. And in with, for example, the list that I have assembled, which Mr. Van Hookey has, the vast majority of those are unoccupied. So it's a non-issue most of the time.
Would it be smart and advantageous of us to put up, maybe we have a little sign or something, or, I hate to just start wrapping caution tape around things. That probably wouldn't be great, but if we had some sort of a sign that said this house is on the demolition list, please stay out of it. That way, the police actually have some.
Like the red tag.
Well, I think the red tag though already says that.
Have you seen the size of the red tag? I mean, it's just a.
Yeah, I
it's
can
a
see them from the
sticker.
street.
Yeah.
Okay, the red tag works.
Well, and just, Mr. Mayor, so you'll know that we did speak with the county attorney.
Right.
And she's on board with enforcing the language of the red tag. So we do have teeth. So in some of those cases where we have these flop houses,
Right.
we've put those red tags up. In some cases, they've torn them down. We've had to go fix them. But, if there's people inside and it clearly says thou shalt not be inside, the county attorney will back us on that. So
Okay.
I just wanted you to have that
Yeah.
so you'll know.
I appreciate that. I like how you use teeth rather than a leg to stand on. That helps too. So, Pete, did you have anything else?
Yes, I do. I want to thank Tim for his participation in this housing situation, the demolition and all. I'm glad to have you handling that. So I think that's in good hands. I have presented you all with a street maintenance plan. We in Fort Scott have 80 miles of streets that have no base. And our job as commissioners is to decide how we're going to handle that. What are we going to do with these streets that on a daily basis are becoming worse because of the condition they're in, more water that goes down into them and destroying the base. So I have put together a plan, and it's a plan to recondition the street. It's not a plan to fix the street. To fix the streets would require more money than the city of Fort Scott ever going to come up with. I mean, we're looking at $150 million if we fix the streets. And I put together a plan. I've run this through Kelly, and we did meet with a representative of Vance Brothers today, and presented the plan to him, and he agreed with what we're trying to do. So what I'm proposing is that we improve the rideability and the drivability of our streets from the top. If we try to fix them from the bottom, we're spending way more money than we could ever possibly come up with. And so Kelly is a proponent of the chip seal, and the chip seals today have improved tremendously over what they were in 1880s. And we have some good quality chip seals. But what I'm proposing that we do, that we, the commission, make a policy. And toward the back of what you've got there, there's a proposed policy for the PCI improvement program for the city of Fort Scott. I'm sorry the pages aren't numbered, but it's the last two pages, I believe, of what you've got there. But with our pothole patching machine and a crew, we're looking at doing a program like we did over on Horton Street last May. And we went over there today and looked at that little project that we did, and it's wonderful. That patch is standing tall, it's solid, it's firm, and it's done just exactly what we wanted it to do. And that's through a combination of the right materials and a crew that's trained to do the work. So if we, we've got a lot of confusion right now. Well, what holes should we patch? What should we do? Should we put concrete under that? Right now, we want to end that confusion with this proposal that I've given you here. What this says is that we will use the pothole patcher. We will fix the low spots. We will patch the spots. We will fill the cracks, and then we'll come over that with a 1 or 2 layer chip seal with a fog seal. The fog seal will make it black, and it'll also tie it together. What we're looking like, we do a mill and overlay. We're spending $200,000 to $250,000 a block, and if we do this process with the chip seal, we're spending 1/4 of that. So we can do 4 times as much on top as we could do with a mill and overlay. And a mill and overlay is not what anything in Fort Scott needs. Fort Scott needs everything torn up and go down, and we repair the base, and we put in a viable base. With this plan, we're gonna come in and we're gonna fix the surface. We're gonna repair the surface. We're gonna make a drivable surface, and we're gonna fix 4 times as much. We're gonna work on 4 times as much because that's all the money we have. I've studied this thing for years, and I've tried to figure out what we can do. And finally, Kelly came along and says, well, let's chip seal it. And I'm in 100% agreement with chip seal it. And then we got the confirmation today from Vance Brothers that, yes, we can chip seal over those brick streets, and we can make this work. And that's what I'd like for this commission to do, is to commit to that plan. So that it takes all the doubt out of what we're doing or how we're going to do it. It gives us a plan for our street crews to go work on. We have the inventory, the street inventory. We have the arterial streets. We have the collector streets. We have the traffic counts. We have the things that we now need to put in motion so that we can make a 5-year plan. This plan that I'm putting forth to here is a 7 to 10 year plan. If we can do 100 blocks a year, we've got close to 1,000 blocks of street in Fort Scott. So that's a 10-year program. But this will get us some streets that we're not falling in the potholes. We're going to fix those potholes, and we're going to put a good drivable surface over the top of it. Granted, it's not going to last as long, but if it lasts half as long, we're still 50% ahead of where we are today. So this is what I'm asking, is for you guys to take a look at this. If you see anything that you don't agree with, let me know. We can rewrite it. We can make it work. But this is the only plan that I've been able to come up with that we can use here in Fort Scott.
And when you talk about chip sealing, you're talking about the asphalt that's currently been laid over brick, not laying over existing brick streets.
I'm talking about laying over existing brick streets. Yes. Otherwise, we're looking down the road 50 or 60 years. Let's just say over here, we've got, if we don't overlay those bricks are going to get worse and worse and worse every day. And we're 50 years away from having the finances to do that. So temporarily, and that's what I'm talking about here, is temporary, 7 to 10 years, we can put a surface on these bricks that we can drive on. Otherwise, we're just hopscotching around, and we're not getting the streets fixed. And I know, Matt, I know what you're talking about. I know where you are, and I've spent countless hours trying to figure out how can we save all these brick streets. And unless you can come up with a plan that you can convince me that and I think that's the reason you're here. But I would like input on what we're doing. But to me right now, this is, we can take, let's say for instance, we were out there on Horton Street today. We don't have the money to fix Horton Street. Horton Street's one of those rebuilds. Every 5 years we've been milling and overlaying. We can go through that with this process right here, and we could start our patching and go down that street, and then put a chip seal over that, and we've got just as good a surface as we would have if we would mill and overlay it. Wouldn't be quite as smooth, but right now we want to try to save what we've got. One of our big problems is that we're built on clay, and we've got all those holes and spots that we have to patch because they're collecting water. When that water stays in there, it goes through there, and it goes down, and it reacts with that clay, and it softens it up, so we get a bigger pothole. With this chip seal process, and with the process that we're talking about with our pothole machine, we seal that off. We get the water to run down the curbs, and we seal it off. So we're gonna keep that area underneath the pavement dry. That way we retain the strength. Whereas right now we're letting the water go through, and it's just destroying more base every day. So this is a program that I put together based on what I think we can do, and how I think we can make this work, and it gives us a clear picture of where we're headed. And you may not like it, I don't like it, but we've got to face realities. You know, we've got a $2 million project, $2 million budget every year, and at $250,000 a block to repair our streets, you know, we're looking at 5 or 6 blocks a year out of 1,000. We can't do it. We just can't do it. It'll be several generations beyond us before we could even possibly get that done. And by the time we get down the road to year 10, what we did in year 1 is going to be needing redone again anyhow.
But Pete, my question would be, before Matthew hits you, my question would be, this wouldn't happen in like the historical district.
No. The historical district is covered on its own.
Right.
It's
I'm just saying, for the people at home,
and you'll see in there, this says this does exclude the historical district.
Right. I think that'll save you till round 2 anyway.
Yeah.
But
well, historical district is already defined. We already know what we have to do here in the historical district. Here, I'm trying to define what we're going to do outside of the historical district.
And do you think would take a couple weeks to come back to the next meeting? That way everybody has a chance to.
Well, yes, you know, if there's any questions, we need to talk about it. But I think this is a program that's well, number one, it's approved by me.
Absolutely,
and it's approved by Kelly and the Vance Brothers experts on chip sealing. They said yes, we can do this.
So you're saying if there was a brick street, say it had 7 or 8 holes in it, then you'll come in there with the street patcher that we already have, patch that up, get it good, compacted, leveled out, and then you'll chip and seal it.
And then we chip seal it.
And then what's the coating that brings it back to black?
Fog seal.
Fog seal will be on top of it. Cape seal.
Yeah, fog coat. Matthew, I think what we'd probably try to do, and we talked about this in our brick workshop, is a 3-pronged approach. One is what Pete's saying, so because we got to cover a lot of streets, and then there's a lot of them that are already asphalt. is for you to still work with the street advisory board on some of them that we can save. And I think that's our goal here, is to save what we can. Pete and I went out and looked at some, and they're getting way beyond saving. I mean, they're washboarded so bad that we're going to have to go out there and do a lot of filling just to get the whole thing leveled out.
But my question on that is, don't we have a lot of streets like that, not just brick streets, right?
Well, and that's why we have the machine that will
What I'm saying is, I mean, we have 73 miles, and how many miles? 83, and how many miles of brick streets do we have? It's
more than half.
I mean, that you can see that he's talking about chips or patching over.
I'm not sure. I'd have to get with Pete.
But what I'm saying is,
suggesting to do that.
I mean, do we have to worry about doing the brick streets first? I mean, we have other streets in town that we can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, we want to probably still raise some of the bricks and level some of that. I mean, that's the three prong is, I mean, we're still going to work on our arterials and our KDOTs and projects like that. But the other is, and obviously with the 5-7 year plan, we're not going to get all of it. So our thing is we want to go after the worst ones. And so, I mean, that's where doing some of the brick streets and doing some of those areas that we can raise them is going to be really critical, because that's going to help in a lot of streets where we can go in there and lift some of those potholes up. Put some concrete down and then rebed in brick. So, what Pete's saying is it's going to be multiple tools in our toolbox that we're going to be working at here. One is like, because this is going to be a going through the whole town in a rotation.
Oh, yeah. So Pete, what's your ask in a couple weeks? Like the street maintenance roadmap, I see a proposed policy that looks like it's for next year or this year.
Yeah, it's for this year.
And so, like in 2 weeks after we look at it's over, I mean, what's your ask to adopt, to give direction? I mean, what's the?
Well, we adopt this plan, and of course, any plan we adopt is temporary at best. We can change it. We can say, okay, this is our general plan. Our general plan is that we're going to do these brick streets in this way, and then we can always come back and say, well, we think that this portion over here we don't have to do this.
Repair it.
Right. It's better. It's we don't have all those potholes, and we don't have all that, so we'll leave those bricks alone. We're not going to cover every brick. This is not saying every brick street in town is going to be covered.
I'm assuming our goal is going to be a PCI index and looking at all the worst ones to raise them up first.
If we can,
as best as we can, yeah.
If we can raise our PCI 1 to 2, that's about the best we can expect. But here again, we're not going to fix them, but we're going to make them drivable.
So do you have any? I mean, is there a long-term 50-year plan to start? I mean, fixing some as we're bringing the PCI up on a few of them, but total rebuild on 1 or 2 blocks, or when's the plan to ever total rebuild?
Well, that's a good question. But we know that with the funds that we have, we can rebuild 2 or 3 blocks. So pick where those 2 or 3 blocks are going to be. I don't know, but the thing of it is, if we go down a street, let's just take, for instance, 6th Street. If we start at the bypass and go to Horton, and we do this process on that street, and then if we apply for a grant, I think any rebuild should be accompanied by a grant application. So if we come up with a grant, the KDOT says, okay, here's $1 million, then we're not wasting we're not wasting a whole bunch of money. But in the meantime, we got 12 blocks there that we've got done, and then we go down, turn the corner, and go down Horton Street to the city limits, and we have we can make some progress with what we got.
I know on Horton right now, you kind of drive it just has a different feel. I mean, I don't know if the Cape Seal and Fog Seal help that, because it's almost like a washboard to me still on Horton when you turn. Where they did that, it almost feels.
It is, and see, that's the nice thing about that machine we have. It can kind of put down a slurry coat, and they only did a small portion of it, and they went and potholed some, and there's about 2 or 3 different examples of what they did, but the part that Pete's talking about was where they slurried it, and it's got some slow rises, but it ain't washboarded. So we do have a piece of equipment that can really put our streets back together with a cape over it.
I know that part on Horton. I mean, I know it, but I don't like the finished product on Horton.
No, because see, you'd have a chip over the top of that too. Yeah.
Yeah,
it'll be
that's,
interesting.
that's the reason why we're going to put the chip seal over the top
brings
of it.
it all
We're gonna-
together.
But here again, that section on Horton that we did with cold oil.
Mm-hmm.
We did with a machine that wasn't functioning by any stretch of the imagination, and we were training people there. So but still,
It helped.
We did good. We did good, and I think with our chip seal, the way that's put down, that will level those out, and that's the reason for the chip seal.
Okay, Pete, did you have anything? You didn't have anything else?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
You notice how I.
All right. So, well, I would like, again, I would like to take action on this at the next meeting.
Okay.
So if we put that on the agenda.
Yeah, please, Diane. Thank you. Pete, do you want to stay here with it's Matthew's comments, or go ahead, Matthew? Your turn.
I'll talk to Pete. Don't worry. We'll work together to do what's best for this town.
Yeah, I think
And
that's
I know
great.
that. So we'll go over that. That's a whole nother conversation. All right. Is it my turn?
Yes, your turn. Go ahead, Matthew.
So first thing, I kind of wanted to know where we were on the city licensing for contractors, utilities, construction. Have we been able to take a look at any of that business licensing and stuff?
I think Bill's kind of looked into that. We haven't really got we've been busy doing everything, but I think we're looking into that.
What other towns are
A
doing?
little more.
What other towns are doing?
Yes, I mean, I had, when the write-up that I had was presented, that's several surrounding communities. What'd you find out, Bill?
If memory serves me right, Mr. Commissioner, at the last meeting, I said I would be willing to work with Mr. McCoy on putting together a presentation for you all. Unfortunately, he's been sick. Okay. We had a number at the police department that were sick, and I ended up working quite a bit of patrol this last week. So really, I don't have anything new for you at this time. It's going to take Mark and I probably quite a bit of time to give you a comprehensive presentation. And that was the kind of the admonition we got from Pittsburgh, was that this is a huge project, and so we don't want to give you something that's
Right.
half-heartedly done. We want to do a thorough, comprehensive job before we bring it before you.
That sounds good. I just want to stay on top of it. I'll be happy to help out in any way that I can. I had some of the HVAC contractors reach out to me and say that they definitely feel that there needs to be one for HVAC as well.
Okay.
Because of some of the things they've seen going on in town, they want to make sure that HVAC
Sure.
contractors are licensed as well.
And that is something historically the city has not required. So
Yes.
I concur. I would like to see that also. Thank you.
Thank you. My second thing, and I talked with Bob about this, and it has come to my attention as something that's been brought to the commission before, and I'd like to know where we are on our establishment of a jurisdiction for a municipal court. From my understanding, we can bring a significant amount of finances to the city by having our own municipal court that handles all of our traffic fines, and we keep that money in-house.
Diane, would you like to comment on that? I got that on my list as well.
Yes, I would. I can tell you the police department is using a company called Brazos, who interfaces with our software company. They have had a few glitches on doing electronic citations, and so they're trying to get those glitches out. I talked to Captain Pickard about it today. They're still working on getting glitches out, and it's not interfacing yet. So it's a kind of a computer thing versus a training officer's issue. So it is ongoing.
Right.
So
Do we have any kind of timeline on when that will be?
we had thought of one time in February, or I mean in January, but hopefully maybe February, March, something like that.
Of this year, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it'll happen this year.
Okay.
So it's close.
It's just, yeah, it's a lot closer than it was.
Okay.
So, the city also needs to adopt probably 3 ordinances, and we need to get a fingerprinting system in place, which the police department needs to order.
Can you?
So,
Would you be able to put that on the agenda for next meeting for an update?
okay.
Or
That
at least the ordinance, is that something we can approve before that, right, when it's gotta coincide with?
Yeah, I guess we could go ahead and approve them. I mean, I sent them to Bob, so, you have to adopt the Uniform Public Offense Code. We have to adopt a warrant fee, which we don't have now, and a fingerprinting fee. So, but yeah, we can get the ordinances on there.
That'd be great, Diane. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. My third thing was, it's come to my attention that we're fixing to do some work on the airport runway. Is that correct?
I think that is what we're looking into, yeah.
Okay. It's also been brought to my attention that the runway that we have out there currently does not meet the weight requirements to handle the planes that we would hope to be able to land on it if we extend the runway. And so I would like us to look into what needs to be done if we're going to rebuild and repair that runway, what we need to do to get the weight specs up to be able to handle the jets that we're hoping to land on it. I don't want us to fix the top coat so we can land the Cessnas on it and not be able to bring in the Lear jets that we're hoping to get once we extend the runway, from my understanding. And if you could check into that for me, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Typically now, they did that up there in Fredonia, and they had an engineering firm. I didn't know if you wanted Earls to look at that, or
I think there's
we already have an engineering
We do.
firm,
Olson.
Olson.
oh,
Olson Associates.
okay, and we'll just get with Seth when he gets back from Hawaii.
Right. He's on it.
He's in Hawaii
Is
on.
it in Hawaii? Okay.
Yeah, on his was it reserve? He's there reserve. He's suffering in Hawaii.
Because I just had several people bring that to my attention, that their worry right now from what was being presented to be done is that it's just going to be fixed on the top, and nothing's going to be fixed with the base that will be able to handle.
Okay,
those
I'll get with
aircraft.
Seth and then we'll look at those plans, make sure that we're getting what we want. Okay,
I
yeah,
appreciate it,
yeah,
sir.
you bet.
And then my final thing is to do with a few of the mics. I've been requested by several people if we can do something about the mic system. There are a few mics that work really good, but I continue to get messages and have been reached out to by people in our community who cannot hear us when we're talking, and it seems to be a few of the mics as opposed to all of the mics. So I don't know if we can look at a mic system like the county uses, or whether or not we can just replace the trouble mics.
Shane is putting together a proposal.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe even lapel mics or something like
I think
that.
he's putting something together like what they have over there, because theirs work pretty good. I mean, you can go back and, so I do know, I think someone said something to him about.
Okay.
I think it's all a conspiracy with Diane. She don't want her mics working good. That's good stuff.
Rachel changed all the batteries.
Thank you, Rachel, for changing the batteries.
Other than that, I just want to publicly say that the guys out there that worked on the bridge project, even though I may not have been for it when it was going forward, I'm extremely impressed with what they did. I think they did an awesome job, and every one of them needs to be commended for their hard work and dedication to the city.
We have some pictures of before and after we'll try to get up on the Facebook page and things. So get some PR out there.
Okay. I just had a few things. When we talked about the lake, if you could have Doug, we know we've asked about Doc several times. When we talk about possibly putting numbers together for different projects out there, if he could get with, I came in with a number and I talked about from Rural Water, bringing the water line up. I'd like to get some, different numbers than we got before, like from Rural Water, and get with electric, Heartland Electric, to see what it would take to put electric in 4 campsites over there. If he could do a little studying on that, would be great. And like Josh said, prices on docks. We need to, look at knocking out some of the small stuff that's not going to be a lot of money. And one of the things that could happen really fast too is gravel on the existing boat trailer parking area. There's a there is not a plethora of gravel. There's big holes out there and mud pits and everything else. And I think that for the time being so it's been that way for 50 years. So I think if we gravel that area, that's going to be sufficient at this point in time. It's going to have to be gravelled anyway. So I think we need to get some gravel down there and have them check into what it would cost to put gutter and the remodel we talked about on the existing shelter house that's there. The next thing I had was it's also at the lake too. We have some nice signage up there that was brought to us by one of the local carvers that has the boating regulations and 2 entrance signs, and that would be on city property as well. And I would like to at least talk to possibly him. That would be Chad Cliffman, and see what it would cost just to treat that, to make sure that sign doesn't go away. It's a great sign. I don't know if you guys have paid attention to it, but it's got pelicans and turtles and all kinds of animals that he's carved out on that sign. And if you don't treat that, I have a feeling it's going to go away pretty quick.
When you do that, can he also look at the sign south of town, the Welcome to Fort Scott sign, because it looks like it's in dire need, the wood sign out there, of repair?
Wood sign south of town?
I thought it was a wood sign. It looks like it's falling apart like a wood sign.
You talking about on the
south of town on 69 Highway when you're coming in?
Has a light shine on it?
Oh no, that's all brick and a beautiful little sign. I think, isn't it brick and concrete? Is it on the ground? Is it ground level?
Yeah, it's on ground level.
Yeah, that was put together by a group here probably 15 years ago, and I think that we can look at that. Maybe have Tom look at that, because I think that's going to be a structure that could probably be power washed or something like that. That's a good point. And now away from the lake stuff. Let me see here. I tell Kelly, ask Travis. We talked about one of the things I was going to ask Tim was if Bob ever got you the information on the censure stuff that you needed for the censure that I have on me. I think that was.
No, I talked with Bob, and I was able to pull the information up myself.
Okay.
And when we had voted earlier, I said, from where I sit in the chair, with what this previous city commission had said as far as what needed to be done, there was one item that was a should do and another one that was a will do. And I'd said, on the will do one, if that was done, I would be the first one to nominate to remove it.
Right.
Myself. But
right.
I just think it's important that when the commission makes a decision that none of us put ourselves above it. And it's not personal. It's just
right. I was just making sure he got you the information.
Yeah, he got me the information I needed on the questions that I had, and then I made my own decision, based on going back. And fortunately, everything that happens in here is either on YouTube forever or it's in a record somewhere forever.
Absolutely.
Which can come back and bite any of us at any time.
Right.
But yeah, I got everything I needed from Bob.
Okay. Awesome. I talked to Diane a little bit last week, and Josh will probably give me a little static over this, but I talked about there's a lot of people in our community that go unnoticed, and not necessarily city employees or anything to do with the city besides just being a good person within the community. And I ran into one of these gentlemen the other day at the parts store, and it just kind of struck me that I thought it'd be nice to give away, like possibly every quarter, some sort of award to just a good person. I don't know whether you call it the unsung hero, whatever, we could come up with a name, but I think it would go a long ways for people doing. We have a lot of people that volunteer in the community, and this gentleman I'm talking about would be a really good candidate for that. And I don't know if he's ever helped on a city project or anything like that, but he's drove a bus for 50 years with nobody acknowledging him. I think there's a lot of people in our community like that would be up for an award like that. So I'd like to, if it was okay with you guys, I'd like to present somebody about once every quarter after discussion who would be acceptable for an award like that. And I think that would be something good we could give back to the community with.
Cool. Do we currently do something similar for like city employees as well? quarterly or
Mostly just longevity, I think.
longevity?
Yeah.
I would like to do a employee of like a quarter. I would like to start doing that. That'll be in the employee council.
Right.
Start that back.
That's good.
What Brad said for the people at home is he wants to do an employee award also a quarterly. It's kind of like my bridge idea, but anyway.
And I mean, I'd like to see something where, you know, these guys are out in the field, they're doing the hard work, the heavy lifting. They know what it takes to do their job. I'd like to see something similar to what we had in other areas, where if they come up with a cost savings idea for the
Sure.
city, it's going to save X number of money, that they get a percentage of that in a check, and they get it presented to them in here in the city commission meeting. It's a win-win-win. I mean, it saves money, it recognizes them for what they do, and the city saves the dollars. So there are similar programs out there. Maybe look into them and see if there's some way we can fit it into.
Yeah, it creates hustle. I mean, everybody's, out there doing the right thing. So we'll go ahead and go with that then. And I don't know, I really don't want to say the individual's name right now, or should I say the individual's name right now? Yeah, just I'll have an idea, and maybe we'll present it to him at the next meeting and fire it off. If that's okay with you guys.
I think it sounds like a good idea.
I don't know if you need a motion for that or. Okay. The next thing I have is the update on the railroad. We had a train on the tracks here a while back, and I think we talked about that at the last meeting. And have you guys got anywheres for an update? Travis is not here. Travis is sick, and Travis is one we were going to ask for the update on the railroad. I just wanted to have something for the citizens at home to know that we're on top of that.
I'm speaking kind of off the cuff here without Chief being here, but I think Chief was working with the dispatch supervisor to figure out or clean up lines of communication between the city and BNSF. And then also, I know some of the officers and myself have been calling in to dispatch and letting them know when the train is blocking the road. So we can start keeping some type of digital history to demonstrate, look, they're not just like a long train passing through town. Like the other day, for example, you had 6 engines that had just crossed 54 by velocity and then stopped for, 45 minutes or something like that. So we kept a digital log of that just to keep record of that. But Chief or Tracy Reed would be best to ask, because they're the ones trying to work with BNSF.
Yeah. That being said, if you could, while you're discussing it with him, there is an offloading pad, probably 2 miles, maybe a mile, something like that, 2 miles outside to the north of town. I was actually helped on part of the building of that. That the vans were originally, I believe, supposed to go down there, pick the engineers up, and hustle them back, and so on and so forth. And I don't think that's being utilized now. And I don't know if that's something the city can work with the railroad to say, hey, we'd like to see that utilized more to keep those trains moving through the community for safety's sake.
Yeah, I know Chief has had some dialogue with legal types and BNSF in the past. He would be the one that could speak more intelligently about the city's relationship with the railroad company.
Right. Well, I want to keep up with that, and if it's something we can work with them on, I think for the citizens' sake, we need to do all we can to make sure that dialogue keeps going.
That'd be a great agenda item for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah. You want to put update on there for Travis? Hope he'll probably be sick again now, but excuse me. Oh, okay. I had something else there on when we was talking about the railroad, but I can't think of what it was now. We also had wanted to ask.
Detour by chance?
No, and it was on the tip of my tongue, but I'm not gonna hold on any longer. One thing we've talked about, Kelly, in the past is daily reports. Josh, myself, Pete, we've had discussions during the meetings of getting reports on a daily from whether it be people in the city, whether it be, and I'm not picking on any one department, I'm saying like Public Works and the park employees, whether it be the lake or whatever. I think it's, in my opinion, I like to look at the end of the week and see, I know in business, when you have employees, they come in every day and they tell you what they've done. Or at least that's what my business is ran, because that's the way we feel, we see what we got done that day. And for billing purposes or whatever. This isn't necessarily for billing purposes, but it gives, again, we're talking about pride. Hey, this week I got these 10 things accomplished. And that way we know exactly what's going on, where, what got fixed in the community.
They used to do, a few years ago, used to do reports. Well, they used to come to the meetings and give, every meeting a different one come and give an update. And then when Jeremy was here, we asked for just each meeting if you can just give a quick little update. Parks Department did this last week, just so we kind of know. Because people come to us and say, what are these guys doing? Or, it just helps us understand.
Yeah, sporadically we've been doing that. The other thing I'd like to do is once we start getting things set in place is have them come in and give quarterly reports and quarterly projections. So that way we have targets to shoot at in all of our departments.
I just feel like, Kelly, to be honest with you, it would even help the supervisors. That way, if somebody says, well, you guys haven't been doing nothing for the last 2 weeks,
you can show
you
them
go right back and say, employee number 1 did A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
I think that's smart, and I think we need to start that, because if we don't, then we're, all in all, it all falls on you, which falls on us.
Right.
So I think that's something that we should probably get.
Yeah, and so what we can do, and I'll talk to on my supervisor meeting, is talk to them about, I don't know if they do any logs, but work logs, and so that way we're tracking what we're doing, and not only that progress, but if we need to apply more manpower somewhere or another. I mean, it's not like a water leak. I mean, obviously you gotta have to do that, but like we were talking tree trimming, things like that, different things.
Well, absolutely, and I want the guys all to keep in mind, we've had talks about this before, we're all city employees. No matter which department we're in, if we've got some time in other areas that's not so needed right now, pull those individuals off and have them help on tree trimming, what have you.
Kelly, quarterly for like the supervisors, I mean, you ever use like just a 4-blocker SWOT analysis? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities to improve, threats. If you're going to do something like that quarterly, you can take that in a simple PowerPoint slide and let the supervisor break out, what's going well, where are we strong, where are we weak, where do we have opportunities to improve if we get these things, and what's a threat right now that would be a major focus for us.
That would be good. Yeah, maybe something
I can sit down with you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
A lot of places use these, and what is nice is it gives a committee or a commission or a boardroom just for that department a nice snapshot view.
Yeah.
And when you go into it and you look at it, you're like, I know exactly what I'm going to see. I'm going to see where we're strong, where we're weak, where we have opportunities to improve with these items, and what is an immediate threat that we really need to address.
I think a SWOT, the first city manager we hired, we actually asked them to bring in a SWOT analysis on a brief preview. I'm a big believer in that.
I am too.
So I think that would be
one by department. I'll get with Kelly and kind of lay out some examples with it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, you guys do that fly swatter deal. But I don't know. Oh, okay. And the last thing I had was just like to reiterate, thanks to Public Works, because I see a difference, and I see the guys getting pride back in there, and I'm excited about it. Seen some work on alleys. I love that. Doing the bridge was a great thing, and the one I'll end on is they fixed the light at Walmart. They fixed a stoplight, and that's big. That thing's been messed up for a long, long time. Oh, I just remembered before I talk about the stoplight, quiet zones. Please put that down on your list, because we promised the people of Fort Scott to continue on the quiet zones from Wall Street, the one they're created there. There's something in there to do with quiet zones. So if you could research that a little bit, because they were supposed to go to 6th Street was the next one we were working on.
There's a discussion in our comprehensive plan regarding quiet zones.
I think one reason they stopped after the cost of the one on Wall Street was 100,000, 200,000.
Right. Well, I want to look into other options, because I think there's other options besides what we did on Wall Street, and I'm not so sure that 6th Street would be as much as the Wall Street. I don't know. I just think we need to look into options, because we we told the people of Fort Scott, or the previous commission did, so I'd like to continue with that conversation anyway. But back to the stoplight. All they did was had to clean the lens. Lens cleaning, that's all it was. And for years now, that thing, or I feel like it's been years, decades, something like that. You've been waiting on the motel traffic to come out, and there's nobody there. So thank you to Tom and Jerry.
That brings up, I don't know if we have a routine maintenance sheet. To me, that's something that's probably done, whatever, quarterly, semi-yearly.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know.
Yeah, that needs
One
to be.
of the things that I'll sit down with the supervisors for is make sure that they have a seasonal sheet, and that's one of the things I typically do. I've been pinned down getting projects going, but we'll get there.
Yeah, I think it was Cody McGehee, if I'm saying that right, that went out and cleaned it off. So
Yeah.
I want to tell him I appreciate that, and that helps a bunch. I was at it just the other day, and it just immediately took off. So that's all I have. Motion to adjourn.
I move that the city commission recess into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations pursuant to the personnel matters of non-elected personnel, exception in KSA 75-4319B1 for 10 minutes.
Is there a second?
Who's in there?
The 5 city commissioners and Kelly.
Yep, I'll second that.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tim Van Hookie,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes. I'll make the motion to come out of executive session.
See you, Brad.
I guess we're out of executive session. Go ahead.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Vote on that.
And we're gonna. Do you want to make a?
And then I'd like to make a motion that we go back into executive session.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Matthew Wells,
Yes.
Tim Van Hooking,
Yes.
Josh Jones,
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes.
Okay.
I move that the city commission recess into executive session for the purposes of contract negotiations pursuant to personnel matters of non-elected personnel exception in KSA 75-4319B1. Will include the 5 city commissioners and Kelly for another 10 minutes.
10.
Be quick, I hope.
we're out of executive session.
Okay, we're coming out of executive session. Do we need to make I'll make the motion to come out of executive session.
I'll second that.
Pete Allen,
Yes.
Josh Jones.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Tim Van Hooking.
Yes.
Kevin Allen.
Yes. I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Tim, did you second that? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Josh Jones. Yes. Tim Van Hooking.
Yes.
Matthew Wells.
Yes.
Pete Allen. Kevin Allen.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.